Part 1. The islands dawned, the sun rose over Rapa Nui. A speck of land lost in the vast Pacific, its rugged shores cradled by waves that whispered tales of forgotten times. Known to the world as Easter Island, it was a place where history clung to the earth like dew, and the towering Moai statues stood as silent guardians, their stone faces etched with secrets older than memory. In 2025, Elias, a 17-year-old with a heart full of wonder and a voice that soothed restless souls, stepped onto the island's volcanic soil, his camera slung over his shoulder for his After Dark History YouTube channel. His curly hair danced in the salty breeze, his eyes bright with the thrill of unraveling a mystery for his cozy audience. He'd spent weeks researching Rapa Nui, poring over books about the Moai, those colossal figures carved centuries ago, some as tall as 33 feet, weighing up to 80 tons, yet moved across miles without modern tools. Elias set his tripod on a grassy knoll overlooking Ahu Tongariki, where 15 Moai stood in a solemn row, their backs to the sea, gazing inland as if watching a world long gone. The dawn painted their weathered faces gold, each one unique, with broad noses and chiseled jaws, their silence louder than the ocean's hum. Elias adjusted his lens, capturing the statue's stoic grandeur, his breath catching at their scale. "Hey, After Dark fam," he whispered, his voice soft as the morning light. "What if everything you thought you knew about ancient civilizations was wrong before we continue? If you enjoy winding down with peaceful stories from the shadows of history, don't forget to subscribe to After Dark History. A like helps more sleepy souls find us, and your comment lets us know where to travel next in time. Now, get cozy. Let the past whisper you to sleep." Elias's words were a gentle invitation, crafted to lull his viewers into the mystery of Rapa Nui. "Tonight we explore Easter Island's Moai, giants guarding secrets for centuries," he continued, panning his camera across the statues, their shadows stretching long in the sunrise. The Moai, over 800 scattered across the island, were a puzzle that baffled historians and archaeologists alike. How did the Rapa Nui, a people with no cranes or wheels, carve these monoliths from volcanic rock? How did they transport them miles, from the Rano Raraku quarry to their stone platforms or ahus? And why did their civilization, once thriving, vanish, leaving only these stone sentinels behind? Elias's historian soul buzzed with these questions, each one a thread in a tapestry of enigma his audience craved. He'd read of theories' ropes, sledges, even legends of mana, a spiritual force that made stones walk. His viewers would love the debate, their comments sure to spark with guesses: engineering genius, divine power, or something stranger. As he spoke, a low hum vibrated through the ground. Not the wind or waves, but something deeper, older, resonating from the earth beneath the Moai. Elias paused, his script forgotten, the sound catching in his chest like a whisper from the past. He checked his camera, its audio meter spiking with each pulse of the hum, a rhythm that felt alive, as if the island itself was speaking. His phone, meant for live streaming to his After Dark History fam, flickered and died, its screen black despite a full charge. Elias frowned, tapping it uselessly, a chill creeping up his spine. The Moai loomed, their gazes unyielding, as if they knew something he didn't. The hum grew, faint but steady, like a heartbeat buried in the volcanic soil. Elias stepped closer to the nearest statue, its surface rough under his fingers, warmed by the rising sun. The air was thick with salt and the scent of wild grass, the island's isolation wrapping him in a quiet embrace. His viewers would call this moment magical, a perfect hook for a sleepy tale, but to Elias it felt real, urgent, a call to uncover truths hidden for centuries. He narrated softly, describing the Rapa Nui people, master navigators who settled this remote land over 1,000 years ago, their culture blooming in defiance of the ocean's vastness. Yet their story ended in mystery, their Moai left to watch over a silent land. The hum pulsed again, and Elias's flashlight dimmed, its beam faltering in the bright dawn. Elias's heart raced, his historian's curiosity battling a flicker of unease. He'd come to Rapa Nui for a story, a calming tale to soothe his audience to sleep. But the island was alive, its secrets stirring under his feet. The Moai's eyes, carved to see inward, seemed to follow him, their silence heavy with questions. How were they raised on their ahus, some topped with red stone pucao hats weighing tons? What drove the Rapa Nui to craft so many, only to topple some in later years? Elias imagined his viewers' comments flooding in aliens, gods, or lost technology. But the hum was no myth, no trick of the mind. It came from the earth, from the Moai, a song older than the stones themselves. He turned his camera to the horizon, where the sea met the sky, its waves a soft lullaby, yet the hum cut through, clear and insistent. Elias's plan was simple: film the Moai, share their enigma, and let his audience drift off, dreaming of ancient riddles. Now standing in the dawn's light, he felt chosen, as if Rapa Nui had waited for him to hear its call. The hum chimed once, a single note, warm and inviting, urging him to step closer to the giants and their unanswered questions. Part 2. The Stone. Sentinel Elias stood before a towering Moai at Ahu Tongariki, its 20-foot height casting a long shadow. Across the grassy plain, a silent giant carved from the volcanic tuff of Rapa Nui's ancient quarry. The statue's broad face, weathered by centuries, gazed over the island with an unyielding calm, its lips set in a line that seemed to hold secrets older than the sea. Elias, his chestnut curls tousled by the Pacific breeze, adjusted his camera to capture the Moai's stoic presence, its silhouette stark against the rising sun. Over 800 of these statues dotted Easter Island, each one a testament to a civilization that thrived in isolation, yet vanished, leaving only stone to tell their story. Elias's After Dark history audience craved such mysteries, and the Moai were a puzzle that had baffled scholars for generations. How were they carved with such precision, moved miles across rugged terrain, and raised onto stone platforms without modern tools? He stepped closer, his sneakers sinking into the soft earth, the air warm with the scent of salt and wildflowers. The Moai's eyes, hollowed yet piercing, seemed to watch him, as if measuring his intent. Elias's voice, soft and soothing, narrated. For his viewers, these giants, some weighing 80 tons, stand as Rapa Nui's legacy. Their creation is a riddle wrapped in stone. His words were meant to lull, to guide his audience into a restful wonder. But the island had other plans. As he spoke, the low hum from dawn pulsed again, clearer now, vibrating through the ground like a heartbeat from the earth's core. The hum wasn't the wind or the waves, it was something older, deeper, resonating from the Moai itself. Elias's camera, still rolling, caught the sound, its audio meter spiking with each rhythmic pulse, a gentle thrum that seemed to weave through the morning light. He paused, his script forgotten, the sound wrapping around him like a whisper from the past. His After Dark history viewers would love this eerie hum to fuel their sleepy theories, but to Elias, it felt personal, as if the Moai were speaking. To him alone, he checked his phone, hoping to live stream the moment to his small but loyal audience, imagining their comments lighting up with guesses, ghosts, vibrations, or ancient magic. But the screen flickered, then went black, its battery drained despite being fully charged just minutes ago. Elias tapped it, his brow furrowing, a chill creeping up his spine despite the sun's warmth. The island, it seemed, resisted modern intrusion, guarding its secrets with a quiet defiance. He set the phone down, its failure a puzzle in itself, and turned back to the Moai, its face unmoved, its gaze fixed on a horizon only it could see. The hum grew, a soft melody that felt alive, syncing with his pulse, urging him to listen closer. Elias circled the statue, his fingers brushing its rough surface, cool despite the sunlight. The Moai stood on an ahu, a stone platform meticulously built, its edges worn but precise. Historians debated how the Rapa Nui, with only obsidian tools and wooden sledges, could have crafted such giants. Some theories spoke of ropes and manpower, Others of logs rolled across the island, but none fully explained the feat. Elias imagined his viewers, their comments buzzing. Perhaps the Rapa Nui were engineering geniuses, or maybe, as locals whispered, manna, a spiritual force, gave life to the stone. He narrated softly, his voice a lullaby for his audience, describing the Moai's creation in the Rano quarry, miles away, where half-carved statues still lay, frozen in time. But the hum interrupted, its rhythm steady, almost deliberate, as if the Moai itself was answering his questions. Elias's flashlight, clipped to his bag, flickered, its beam dimming despite fresh batteries. He shook it, puzzled. The island's mystery deepening with each failed device. The Moai's shadow stretched across the plain, merging with others in a silent chorus of stone. Elias stepped back, his camera panning the row of 15 statues, each one unique, some with sharper chins, others with deeper brows, all carved with a precision that defied their age. The hum pulsed stronger now, vibrating through his sneakers, a song that seemed to rise from the earth beneath the ahu. Elias's historian heart raced. This was no mere tale for his channel. The Moai were more than statues. They were guardians of a lost world, their secrets etched in volcanic rock. He spoke to his camera, his voice steady despite the unease. How did they move these giants? Why did they watch the island, not the sea? His viewers would drift to sleep pondering, but Elias felt awake, alive, drawn into Rapa Nui's enigma. The hum chimed once, a single note, warm and inviting, like a call from the ancestors. Elias's eyes lingered on the Moai's face, its gaze pulling him toward the quarry, toward answers hidden in the stone. Part 3. The quarry's echo. Elias hiked up the rugged slopes of Rano, the ancient volcanic quarry where the Moai of Rapa Nui were born, their stone forms emerging from the earth like giants frozen in creation. The morning sun bathed the hillside in a warm golden glow, casting long shadows from half-carved statues, some still embedded in the rock, their faces half-formed, yet hauntingly alive. Elias, his chestnut curls damp with sweat from the climb, felt the weight of history in every step, his camera slung over his shoulder for his After Dark History YouTube channel. The quarry was a silent workshop, a sacred place where the Rapa Nui had chiseled their colossal figures centuries ago, each one a tribute to ancestors or chiefs, though no one knew for sure. The air was thick with the scent of volcanic dust and wild grass, mingling with the distant salt of the Pacific, creating a heady mix that grounded Elias in the island's timelessness. He paused before a Moai, its torso still locked in the quarry's embrace, its eyes yet to be carved, as if waiting for permission to see. "This is where it all began," Elias whispered to his camera, his voice soft and soothing, crafted to lull his audience into a restful wonder. These statues, some weighing 80 tons, were carved right here. But how did a people with no machines shape such giants? His words were a gentle hook, meant to draw his After Dark History viewers into the enigma, but the island had its own story to tell. As he spoke, the low hum from the Moai at dawn pulsed again, louder now, echoing through the quarry like a heartbeat from the stone itself. The hum vibrated through Elias's sneakers, a steady rhythm that seemed to rise from the earth's core. Resonating with the half-carved giants around him, he adjusted his camera, its audio meter spiking with each pulse, capturing a sound that shouldn't exist in this silent graveyard of stone. His heart quickened, not with fear but with a historian's curiosity, the kind that fueled his channel's sleepy tales. The Moai, scattered across the quarry's slopes, looked like a frozen army, some upright, others tilted, as if paused mid-step on their journey to the coast. Elias's research had uncovered theories, obsidian chisels, wooden sledges, teams of workers, but none fully explained how the Rapa Nui carved with such precision or moved these monoliths miles to their ahus. He narrated softly, his voice a lullaby for his viewers, describing the quarry as a living workshop where tools and sweat shaped stone into art. But the hum interrupted, its cadence deliberate, like a song the Rapa Nui once sang. Elias's flashlight, clipped to his belt, flickered despite fresh batteries, its beam faltering in the bright daylight. He shook it, puzzled, the same unease creeping in as when his phone died at Ahu Tungariki. The island, it seemed, was jealous of its secrets, resisting modern tools with a quiet defiance. Elias knelt beside a half-carved moai, its face emerging from the rock, its nose and chin rough but unmistakable. He traced its surface, cool and gritty under his fingers, wondering at the hands that shaped it centuries ago. Locals, like Koa from the village, spoke of mana, spiritual force that gave life to the stone, making it walk to its platform. Elias, a skeptic with a love for history's whispers, had planned to frame this as a myth for his audience, a cozy tale to spark dreamy comments. Was it magic? Engineering? Or something lost to time? But the hum felt real, pulsing stronger as he touched the stone, as if the moai itself was part 4. The village, whispers Elias, wandered into Hungaroa, the heartbeat of Rapa Nui, were roofed cottages. Nestled among palm trees, their walls painted in soft hues of coral and blue, kissed by the island's salty breeze. The village, the only settlement on Easter Island, hummed with quiet life. Children laughed in the distance. Waves murmured against the shore, and the scent of grilled fish mingled with blooming hibiscus. Elias, his camera slung over his shoulder, felt the weight of his after-dark history mission, his heart set on weaving a soothing tale for his audience, one that would unravel the Moai's enigma while lulling viewers to sleep. The sun hung high, casting dappled shadows through the trees, but the mysterious hum from the quarry still lingered in his chest, a faint pulse that seemed to follow him from Ranararoku. He'd come to meet Koa, an elder whose family traced back to the Rapa Nui's ancient carvers, hoping his stories could shed light on the Moai's creation and transport. Elias found Koa's cottage at the village's edge, its porch adorned with carved wooden figures, their faces echoing the Moai's stoic gaze. Koa, a wiry man with silver hair and eyes like polished obsidian, welcomed Elias with a warm smile, offering a cup of herbal tea that smelled of mint and earth. "You seek the Moai's secrets, boy," Koa said, his voice a gentle rumble. "But they speak only to those who listen." Elias set up his camera, its lens capturing the elder's weathered hands, ready to record a tale for his sleepy after-dark history fam. Koa's cottage was a shrine to Rapa Nui's past, its walls lined with faded photographs of moai and woven mats etched with Birdman symbols. Elias sipped the tea, its warmth calming his nerves, and narrated softly, his voice a lullaby for his viewers. "Here in Hungaroa, the Rapa Nui stories live on, whispered by elders like Koa," he said, imagining his audience settling into their beds, ready for a cozy mystery. Koa leaned forward, his eyes gleaming with a knowing spark, and began to speak of the ancestors' master carvers who shaped the moai to honor their chiefs, their mana, a spiritual force that pulsed through the island like a heartbeat. "Stones walked," Koa said, his smile crinkling his face, guided by mana and the stars, not just ropes and hands. Elias's historian heart stirred, picturing his viewers' comments flooding in magic or metaphor. The tale was perfect for his channel, a blend of history and wonder, but the hum vibrated again, soft yet insistent, as if the island itself was nodding along. Elias's phone, still dead from the quarry, lay useless in his bag, and his cameras. Battery icon flickered, despite being fully charged. The hum seemed to weave through Koa's words, a melody from the earth. Pulling Elias deeper into Rapa Nui's enigma, Koa's stories painted a vivid picture, villages alive with chants, carvers, wielding obsidian tools under starlit skies, moai rising on their ahus as if by will. Elias listened, his notebook filling with sketches of moai and notes on mana, his mind racing with questions. How did the Rapa Nui move 80-ton statues miles across rugged terrain? Why did they carve so many, only to topple some in later years? Koa's tale hinted at a lost art, a balance of skill and spirit, but offered no clear answers. "The moai see what we cannot," Koa said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "They watch the stars, the sea, the past." Elias's camera captured the moment, the elder's words a perfect hook for his audience, who'd drift off dreaming of stone giants and ancient rituals. But the hum grew stronger, resonating in the wooden floorboards, as if Koa's cottage was part of the island's song. Elias touched his chest, feeling the vibration sync with his pulse, a call he couldn't ignore. His flashlight, tucked in his bag, flickered off, its beam snuffed out despite the daylight streaming through the windows. The island, it seemed, guarded its secrets, allowing only glimpses to those who tread softly. Elias thanked Koa, his mind buzzing with the elders' tales, each one a thread in the Moai's mystery. As he stepped outside, Hungaroa glowed under the midday sun, streets quiet save for the rustle of palms and the distant crash of waves. The hum followed him, a soft echo in the air, as if the Moai themselves were whispering from their distant ahoos. Elias imagined his after-dark history viewers, their comments alight with theories mana as energy, stars as guides, or something stranger. He wanted to share Sue's story, to craft a video that would soothe and intrigue. But the hum felt personal, a secret meant for him alone. He glanced back at the cottage, where Koa stood on the porch, his smile knowing, as if he sensed the island's call in Elias's heart. The village seemed to pause, its colors vivid, yet dreamlike. As the hum chimed once, a single note, warm and inviting, urging Elias to return to the quarry, to the Moai, to the questions that waited in the stone. Part 5. The hidden Cavalias trekked along Rapa Nui's rugged coastline, where the Pacific waves crashed against black volcanic cliffs, their roar a constant lullaby that blended with the island's timeless pulse. Guided by Sioe's tales, he sought Anakai Tongata, a cave near the sea said to hold secrets of the Rapa Nui's past. The sun hung low, casting golden light across the rocky path. But the air grew cooler as Elias descended toward the cave's mouth, its dark entrance framed by jagged stone like a portal to another time. His after-dark history camera hung heavy on his shoulder, ready to capture a story for his audience, who craved the soothing mysteries he wove to ease them into sleep. The hum from the quarry and Hungaroa followed him, faint vibration in the earth, now sharper, as if the island knew he was close to something sacred. Elias paused at the cave's threshold, the scent of damp stone and seaweed filling his lungs, the shadows within beckoning like a whisper from the ancestors. He flicked on his flashlight, its beam cutting through the darkness, revealing walls etched with petroglyphs, birdmen with outstretched wings, stars spiraling in patterns that felt alive. "This is Anakai Tangata," Elias whispered to his camera, his voice soft and steady, a lullaby for his viewers. A place where the Rapa Nui carved their dreams into stone. But the hum pulsed louder, echoing off the cave's walls, a rhythm that seemed to call his name. Pulling him deeper into the island's enigma, the petroglyphs danced under Elias's flashlight, their lines sharp despite centuries of erosion, depicting birdmen soaring toward the heavens in constellations that no modern chart could name. He narrated softly, his words crafted to soothe his after-dark history audience, imagining their sleepy comments were these rituals for the Moai, signals to the stars. The hum vibrated through the cave, syncing with his heartbeat as if the carvings themselves were singing. Elias's camera flickered, its screen glitching despite a full battery, just as his phone had failed at the quarry. He steadied it, his historian's curiosity battling a flicker of Onisa Island, seemed to resist technology, guarding its secrets with a quiet will. Kneeling to inspect a birdman carving, Elias's fingers brushed a loose rock, its surface oddly smooth. He pried it free, revealing a small alcove hidden in the cave's wall, its shadows concealing a palm-sized stone disc. Its surface etched with Rongorongo, the Rapa Nui's undeciphered script. The disc was warm to the touch, its glyphs swirling in intricate patterns, fish, spirals, crescent moons that seemed to pulse with the hum. Elias's heart raced. This was no mere artifact, but a key to the Moai's mysteries. It's too real for his cozy channel's tales. The hum grew, a gentle melody resonating from the disc, as if it held the island's voice. Elias held it up, the flashlight's beam catching its edges, making the glyphs shimmer like liquid starlight. His research had mentioned Rongorongo's sacred tablets lost to time, their meaning a puzzle no scholar could crack. Koa's tales hinted they were tied to the Moai, perhaps instructions for their creation or a record of mana, the spiritual force that moved stone. Elias's viewers would flood the comments with theories, codes, spells, or maps, but this felt personal, a discovery meant for him. He sketched the disc in his notebook, its glyphs flowing like a forgotten song, his hands trembling with excitement. The cave's air grew heavier, the hum now a chorus, echoing off the petroglyphs, as if the birdmen themselves were chanting. Elias's flashlight dimmed further, its beam a faint glow, as if the cave preferred the darkness to reveal its truths. He narrated, his voice steady, despite the mystery. What if this disc holds the key to how the Moai were made? Is after. Dark history audience would drift off dreaming of ancient scripts. But Elias felt awake, chosen by Rapa Nui to uncover its secrets. He stepped deeper into the cave, the hum guiding him like a beacon, the disc warm in his pocket. The petroglyphs seemed to shift under his gaze, their stars aligning with memories he couldn't place. The cave's walls felt alive, their damp stone pulsing with the same rhythm as the disc, as if Anakai Tangata was a heart within the island. Elias imagined his viewers, their sleepy fascination sparked by this find. But the disc's weight was more than a story, it was a responsibility. He paused, the ocean's roar softer now, muffled by the cave's embrace, the hum filling the silence with a lullaby older than the Moai. His camera's red light blinked, still recording despite the glitches, as if the island allowed this moment to be captured. Elias's mind raced with questions. Was the disc a tool for the Moai's creation? A map to their purpose? The hum chimed. Once, a single note, warm and resonant, urging him to carry the disc forward. To seek the quarry again, where the Moai's unfinished forms waited with answers, more mysteries etched in stone. Part 6. The Discs. Pulse back at his tent. Pitched on a grassy knoll, overlooking Rapa Nui's windswept coast. Elias sat cross-legged under the soft glow of a lantern, the Rongorongo disc cradled in his hands. The Pacific's waves murmured in the distance, their rhythm blending with the island's quiet heartbeat, a soothing backdrop to the night's stillness. His after-dark history camera rested on a makeshift table, its battery drained from the cave, leaving Elias alone with his thoughts and the artifact he'd found in Anakai Tangata. The tent's canvas walls fluttered gently, scented with salt and earth, creating a cocoon of calm that felt both intimate and vast, as if Rapa Nui itself was listening. The disc, no larger than his palm, was carved from dark stone, its surface etched with intricate glyphsfish spirals, crescent moons that seemed to shift under his lantern's flickering light. Elias's chestnut curls fell into his eyes. As he leaned closer, his historian's heart racing with the weight of discovery. This was no mere trinket. It was a relic of the Rapa Nui, a piece of their undeciphered script that scholars had puzzled over for centuries. His after-dark history audience would lose themselves in this mystery, their sleepy comments buzzing with theories, codes, rituals, or star maps, but the disc's hum, faint yet persistent, felt like a personal call urging Elias to unravel its secrets. As he traced a glyph, the hum pulsed stronger, a warm vibration that tingled through his fingertips, as if the disc was alive. The hum was no illusion. It resonated from the disc, a gentle melody that seemed to echo the island's rhythm, syncing with the distant waves and the breeze outside. Elias set the disc on his notebook, its pages filled with sketches from the cave birdmen. Stars, and now these glyphs, each one a whisper from a lost world. His flashlight, propped against a water bottle, cast a wavering beam across the tent, illuminating the disc's surface, where the glyphs glowed faintly, like embers in the dark. Elias narrated softly to himself, practicing for his next video, his voice a lullaby meant to soothe his viewers. This is Rongorongo, he whispered, a script no one can read, tied to the Moai's creation, maybe even their purpose. His audience would drift off dreaming of ancient scribes, but the hum's warmth lulled his own thoughts, pulling him into a dreamlike haze. He'd read that Rongorongo was sacred, carved on wooden tablets now lost, possibly instructions for rituals or records of mana. The spiritual force, Koa said, moved the Moai. But this stone disc felt different, weightier, as if it held not just words but power. His phone, still dead from the quarry, lay useless beside his sleeping bag, and his flashlight flickered, its beam dimming despite fresh batteries, as if the island resisted modern tools. Elias turned the disc over, its back smooth but etched with a single spiral, its lines spiraling inward like a galaxy caught in stone. The hum pulsed in time with his touch, a rhythm that seemed to slow his breath, inviting him to close his eyes and listen. He resisted, his historian's curiosity burning brighter than the lantern's glow. The Moai's creation carving 80-ton statues with obsidian tools was a puzzle, but their transport across miles of rugged terrain was even stranger. Could the disc be a tool, a key to that process? Koa's tales of mana echoed in his mind, stories of stones that walked under. Starlit chants. Elias's viewers would call it magic, their comments alight with theories' vibrations. Spirits or lost technology, but the hum felt real, a vibration that tingled through his hands, as if the disc was singing the Rapa Nui's secrets. He sketched the spiral, its lines mirroring the cave's petroglyphs, wondering if it mapped the stars or the island's mana. The tense air grew heavier, the hum now a soft chorus, resonating with the earth outside, as if the Moai themselves were listening. Elias's eyelids drooped, the disc's warmth tempting him to dream, to see the answers in sleep. He shook himself awake, setting the disc down, its hum softening but never fading. The lantern flickered, casting shadows that danced like the birdmen from the cave, their wings stretching across the tense walls. Elias imagined his after-dark history video, his voice weaving the disc's mystery into a calming tale, a lost script, a humming stone, a civilization's enigma. His audience would love it, their sleepy fascination sparked by the Rongorongo's riddle. But the disc's weight was more than a story, it was a responsibility. He wondered if it guided the Moai's creation, perhaps a tool to channel mana, or a record of their purpose, watching the stars. The hum chimed once, a single note, warm and resonant, as if agreeing with his thoughts. Elias's notebook trembled slightly, the disc's vibration rippling through the pages, a reminder of Rapa Nui's living past. He looked out the tense flap, the night sky glittering with stars, the Moai's silhouettes faint against the horizon. The hum pulsed again, urging him to return to the quarry, to the cave, to the heart of the island's secrets, where the Moai waited with answers or more questions, etched in their silent stone. Part 7. The call to Nor. Elias sat in his tent, the Rongorongo disc resting on his notebook, its faint hum weaving through the night's quiet, melody that seemed to pulse with Rapa Nui's ancient heartbeat. The Pacific's waves lapped gently against the shore, their rhythm a soothing counterpoint to the island's mysteries. But Elias's mind was restless, stirred by the disc's glyphs and the hum that refused to fade. His after-dark history camera lay silent, its battery drained, like his phone and flashlight, as if the island itself rejected modern tools. The weight of the disc's discovery pressed on him. This was no mere story for his cozy YouTube audience, but a secret that demanded understanding beyond his historian's knowledge. He needed Nora, his tech-savvy friend who edited his videos, her sharp mind a perfect balance to his dreamer's heart. Back in Stillwater, Nora had turned his raw footage into soothing tales, her edits blending his voice with soft music to lull viewers to sleep. Elias fumbled with a borrowed satellite phone, its signal weak but enough to reach her.
"Nora, it's
me," he whispered, the hum vibrating through the tense canvas walls. "I found something on Rapa Nui, a stone disc, humming, covered in Rongorongo. I need you here." Her voice crackled through, skeptical but intrigued. "A humming stone? Eli, you're deep in this one. I'm coming." The call dropped, the hum chiming once, as if approving, urging Elias to wait for her arrival under the island's starlit sky. The next morning, Elias stood at Hongaro's small airstrip, the sun climbing high, bathing the village in a warm glow that danced on the coral and blue cottages. The hum followed him, a soft pulse in his pocket where the disc rested, wrapped in a cloth to muffle its warmth. His after-dark history audience would love this tale of lost script. A mysterious hum, but Elias felt the disc's weight, a secret too vast for a single video.
No.
Nora's plane touched down, its engines a stark contrast to the island's quiet, and she stepped out, her short black hair tousled, her tech bag slung over her shoulder. "Eli, this better be good," she teased, her eyes scanning the volcanic landscape, where Moai loomed in the distance, their gazes fixed on the horizon.
Ow.
She set up her drone, eager to capture aerial shots for the channel, but its screen flickered and died, just like Elias's phone at the quarry. "What's with this place?" Nora muttered, checking her laptop, which also refused to boot. Elias showed her the disk, its glyphs catching the sunlight, the hum pulsing softly as she held. It's warm," she said, her voice dropping, and it's humming. "Eli, this is after dark gold." The disk's vibration seemed to greet her, a welcome to Rapa Nui's enigma, as the island's breeze carried whispers of the past. Nora sat with Elias on a grassy knoll near the airstrip. The disk between them, its glyphs shimmering like a forgotten language under the midday sun. She flipped through Elias's notebook, her fingers tracing his sketches of the cave's petroglyphs, birdmen, stars, and now the disk's spirals. "This Rongo," she said, her practical mind cutting through. "The mystery? It's tied to the Moai, right? Maybe a ritual guide or a map for their transport?" Elias nodded, his historian's heart racing. Nora's logic grounded his wonder, making the puzzle feel solvable. He narrated softly, practicing for his viewers, his voice a gentle lullaby. "Imagine a script no one can read, humming with the island's secrets, linked to giants that walked." His audience would drift off, their comments alight with theories codes, mana, cosmic signals. But the hum felt alive, resonating through the grass, as if Rapa Nui was listening. Nora's tech bag, usually buzzing with gadgets, sat silent, every device drained, a reminder of the island's resistance. She frowned, tapping her dead drone, but her eyes lit up at the disk's pulse, a vibration that trembled through her fingertips, urging her to join Elias's quest. They pored over Koa's tales. Elias had jotted down stories of ancestors, chanting under stars, moving Moai with Mana's song. The disk's hum seemed to echo those chants, a rhythm that slowed Elias's breath, tempting him to close his eyes and dream. Nora, ever the skeptic, tested the disk, holding it near a water bottle which quivered faintly, as if the hum carried a physical force. "This isn't just a story, Eli," she said, her voice soft but firm. "It's something real, maybe sound, maybe science." The hum chimed again, a single note, warm and resonant, as if the disk was guiding them toward answers, Elias imagined. His after-dark history video, his voice weaving the disk's mystery into a calming tale. But the disk's weight was more than a narrative. It was a call to explore deeper, to find the ritual site Koa hinted at beneath Ranoraku. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows from the Moai in the distance, their gazes seeming to follow Elias and Nora. The hum pulsed stronger, a lullaby from the island's heart, urging them to return to the quarry where the Moai's secrets waited, etched in stone and starlight. Part 8. The Quarry's Secret at Dawn. Elias and Nora trekked back to Ranoraku, the volcanic quarry where the Moai of Rapa Nui were carved, their half-formed figures rising from the earth like silent giants, caught mid-creation. The sun climbed over the island's rugged hills, bathing the quarry's slopes in a soft golden light, casting long shadows from statues still locked in the rock, their faces frozen in eternal watch. Elias, his chestnut curls damp with mourning, carried the Rungo disc in his pocket, its faint hum pulsing through the cloth, a rhythm that seemed to sync with the island's heartbeat. Nora, her tech bag slung over her shoulder, scanned the landscape with sharp eyes, her skepticism tempered by the disk's undeniable vibration. The air was warm, scented with volcanic dust and wild grass, a heady mix that grounded them in Rapa Nui's timelessness. Elias's after-dark history camera, recharged but flickering, hung at his side, ready to capture a story for his audience, who craved soothing tales of history's shadows. The quarry was a living relic, its slopes dotted with Moai, some upright, Others tilted as if paused on their journey to the coast. Elias narrated softly, his voice a lullaby for his viewers. This is Rano Raraku, where the Moai were born. But their secrets lie deeper, hidden in the stone. The hum grew stronger, resonating from the disc, as if guiding them towards something unseen. A secret the island was ready to share. Elias and Nora climbed higher. The path strewn with loose tuff, the quarry's silence broken only by the crunch of their steps and the distant cry of seabirds. The hum led them to a cluster of half-carved moai, their faces emerging from the rock. Eyes yet to be etched, as if waiting for permission to see. Nora pointed to a crevice, barely visible behind a tilted statue, its edges concealed by moss and shadow. There, she said, her voice low, the hums louder. Elias knelt, the disc's vibration tingling through his fingers, its glyphs seeming to glow faintly under the morning light. He traced the crevice's edge, finding a seam that felt deliberate. Not natural, a hidden entrance, sealed by a boulder etched with a faint spiral, matching the disc's design. His historian's heart raced. This was no coincidence. Tales echoed in his mind, stories of rituals beneath the quarry, where mana moved stone. Elise's After Dark history audience would love this, their sleepy comments buzzing with theories, secret chambers, ancient rites, or lost tech. But the hum felt personal, a call meant for him and Nora. He held the disc to the boulder, its spiral aligning with the stones, and the hum pulsed stronger. A warm melody that vibrated through the earth. With a gentle push, Elias fitted the disc into a slot in the boulder, its glyphs clicking into place like a key in a lock. The boulder shifted, a low rumble echoing through the quarry, revealing a narrow tunnel descending into darkness. The hum became a chorus, resonating from the tunnel's depths, a song that seemed to weave through the moai above, as if they were listening. Nora's flashlight, already flickering like Elias's tech, cast a wavering beam into the passage, illuminating damp stone walls etched with faint carvings, birdmen, stars, moai in motion. Elias's breath caught. This was no mere cave, but a sacred space, hidden for centuries, he narrated, his voice steady despite the thrill. What if the Rapa Nui hid their secrets here, beneath the quarry? His viewers would drift off, dreaming of underground rituals, but Elias felt awake, chosen by the island to uncover its truth. Nora, ever practical, tested her drone, but its screen went black, the island's resistance to technology stronger here. Eli, this is real, she whispered, her skepticism softening. This tunnel, it's tied to the moai. The hum pulsed through the air, warm and inviting, urging them to step inside, to follow its rhythm into Rapa Nui's heart. The tunnel's air was cool, heavy with the scent of earth and salt, its walls closing in as Elias and Nora descended, their footsteps echoing softly. The disc, still in Elias's hand, hummed louder, its vibrations syncing with the carvings, as if activating a memory. Elias imagined his After Dark history video, his voice weaving this discovery into a calming tale, a hidden tunnel, a humming disc, a lost civilization's genius. His audience would love the mystery, their comments alight with guesses, mana vibrations, or something cosmic, but the tunnel's weight was more than a story. It was a responsibility, a secret Rapa Nui had guarded for centuries. The carvings grew clearer, showing ropes and figures chanting, moai sliding across the earth as if weightless. Elias's heart pounded. This could explain how the stones moved. A truth buried beneath the quarry. The hum chimed once, a single note, resonant and warm, like a welcome from the ancestors. Nora's hands steadied him, her eyes wide but focused, as they ventured deeper. The tunnel's darkness swallowing the dawn's light, leaving only the disc's song to guide them toward the moai's secrets. Part 9. The Chamber of Stars. Elias and Nora descended deeper into the tunnel beneath Rano Raraku, the air growing cooler and heavier with the scent of damp earth and ancient stone, as if the quarry itself breathed around them. The Rongorongo disc in Elias's hand hummed softly, its vibration a guiding pulse that echoed through the narrow passage, syncing with their cautious steps. The tunnel opened into a vast chamber, its walls and ceiling carved with intricate patterns that glowed faintly blue under the dim beam of Nora's flickering flashlight. Elias's heart quickened, his after-dark history instincts tingling. This was no ordinary cave, but a sacred space hidden beneath the birthplace of the Moai. The ceiling arched high, etched with a sprawling star map, constellations swirling, in patterns unfamiliar to modern skies, as if capturing a night from 1,000 years ago. The walls were alive with carvings, birdmen with outstretched wings, ropes pulling Moai and figures chanting under starlight, their forms seeming to shimmer in the faint glow. Elias's camera, drained like all their tech, lay useless in his bag, but his eyes recorded every detail, his voice whispering a narration for his audience. "This is the heart of Rapa Nui's mystery," he murmured, his tone soft and soothing, meant to lull his viewers into a dreamlike wonder, a chamber where the Moai's secrets were carved. The hum from the disc grew stronger, a chorus that resonated with the carvings, as if the chamber itself was singing. Urging Elias and Nora to listen, the star map above glittered, its lines precise yet otherworldly, each star connected by delicate curves that suggested a celestial guide. Elias traced a constellation with his finger, the stone cool and smooth, feeling the hum pulse through his hand, as if the disc was linked to this ancient sky. Nora, her skepticism softened by the chamber's awe, pointed to a carving of a Moai being raised, ropes taut, figures chanting in unison, their mouths open as if singing. "Look, Eli," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum. "This shows how they move them ritual sound, not just strength." Elias nodded, his historian's mind racing. The carvings suggested mana was more than myth, perhaps a vibration harness to ease the Moai's journey across the island. His after-dark history audience would drift off imagining ancient chants, their comments buzzing with theories, sound waves, spiritual force, or lost technology, but the hum felt real, physical presence that warmed the air. Elias placed the disc on a central stone pedestal, its spiral glyph aligning with a matching carving. And the chamber's glow intensified, the star maps sparkling like a living sky. The hum became a melody, soft and resonant, wrapping them in a dreamlike haze, as if the Rapa Nui ancestors were whispering their secrets. Nora's flashlight flickered again, its beam faltering, as if the chamber preferred its own light. She sketched the carvings in her notebook, her hands steady despite the hum's pull, capturing ropes, ramps, enchanting figures that seemed to move in the shifting glow. Elias's research had mentioned 19th century explorers who dismissed tales of singing stones, but here the hum was undeniable, a frequency that seemed to vibrate the very walls. He narrated softly, practicing for his viewers. What if the Rapa Nui used sound to move the Moai, a song lost to time? His audience would love this, their sleepy fascination sparked by the idea of a civilization that sang to stone. But the chamber's weight was more than a story. It was a revelation. The carvings showed Moai aligned with stars, their eyes carved to watch the heavens, suggesting a purpose beyond honoring chiefs, perhaps a celestial map or signal. Elias's heart pounded. This could rewrite history, but the hum's lullaby tempted him to close his eyes, to dream the answers. Nora's voice grounded him. "Eli, this is science, not just myth vibrations, maybe acoustic engineering." The disc's hum pulsed stronger, as if agreeing, its rhythm syncing with the star map's glow. It's urging them to look closer. Elias stepped to a wall carving, depicting a Moai sliding across the earth, space vibrating as figures chanted around. The disc in his hand trembled, its glyph shimmering, as if activated by the chamber's energy. He imagined his after-dark history video, his voice weaving this discovery into a calming tale, a hidden chamber, a humming disc, a starlit ritual, but the truth felt too vast for a single upload. The chamber's air grew heavier, the hum now, a chorus that seemed to flow from the carvings, the pedestal, the stars above. Nora's eyes widened, her practicality giving way to wonder, as she traced a birdman carving, its wings mirroring the cave's petroglyphs. "This connects to Anakai Tangata," she said. "It's all linked Moai stars sound." The hum chimed once, a single note, warm and resonant, like a call from the ancestors. inviting Elias and Nora to carry the disc's song forward. The chamber's glow pulsed, illuminating their path, as if Rapa Nui was revealing its heart, trusting them with its secrets. Elias's notebook trembled in his bag, the disc's vibration rippling through, a reminder that the Moai's story was alive, waiting to be understood beneath the quarry's silent tone. Part 10. The ancient song. Elias stood in the chamber beneath Ranoraku, the air thick with the scent of damp stone and the faint hum of the rongo-rongo disc, its vibration. A gentle pulse that seemed to weave through the glowing star map above. The chamber's walls, etched with carvings of birdmen, ropes, and moai, shimmered faintly blue, as if alive with the island's ancient energy. Nora, her flashlight flickering, traced a carving of chanting figures, her practical mind grappling with the surreal beauty around them. Elias's after-dark history camera lay drained in his bag, leaving his notebook to capture the moment, its pages filling with sketches of stars and moai in motion. The disc in his hand grew warmer, its glyphs fish, spirals, crescent moons seeming to pulse with the hum, as if eager to speak. He stepped toward the central stone pedestal, its surface carved with a spiral matching the disc's, a slot beckoning like a keyhole to the past. His historian's heart raced. This chamber held answers to the Moai's mysteries, how they were moved, why they stood, what the Rapa Nui believed. Elias narrated softly, his voice a lullaby for his absent audience. What if this disc unlocks the Moai's secret, a song that moved stone? Its words meant to soothe his after-dark history viewers, echoed in the chamber, blending with the hum, which grew stronger, a melody that wrapped him in a dreamlike haze. With a steady hand, he placed the disc into the pedestal's slot, its glyphs clicking into place, and the chamber's glow surged, the star map sparkling like a living sky. The hum became a chorus, resonating through the walls, the floor, the very air, as if Rapa Nui itself was singing. Elias's breath caught as a vision bloomed before them, vivid and fleeting, like a memory pulled from the island's heart. He saw Rapa Nui in its prime centuries ago. Under a starlit night, villagers gathered on a grassy plain, their voices rising in a rhythmic chant, their hands clapping in unison. Mowing, massive and gleaming, slid across the earth, their bases vibrating as if weightless, guided by the chant's cadence. Ropes and ramps framed the scene, but it was the sound a low, resonant hum that seemed to lift the stone, easing its journey from quarry to Ahu. Elias's eyes widened, the vision so real he could feel the night's breeze, smell the grass, hear the ancestor song. Nora gripped his arm, her voice a whisper. Eli, are you seeing this? Her flashlight dimmed completely, plunging them into the chamber's blue glow, as if the island demanded they witness this truth without modern tools. The vision showed a moai rising on its platform, its eyes carved to watch the stars as if aligned with the chamber's map. Elias's heart pounded. This was no myth, but a lost art, a science of sound the Rapa Nui had mastered. The disc's hum pulsed stronger, syncing with the vision's chant, a frequency that seemed to vibrate the chamber stone, making Elias's notebook tremble on the pedestal. He remembered a 19th-century explorer's journal, dismissed by scholars, that spoke of singing stones on Rapa Nui, tales of moai moving as if alive. His after-dark history audience would love this, their sleepy comments flooding with theories acoustic, engineering, mana, or cosmic signals, but the vision felt personal, a gift from the ancestors. Elias sketched frantically, capturing the chanting figures, the vibrating moai, the starlit sky, his hands shaking with awe. Nora, her skepticism fading, pointed to a carving of a Moai's base, etched with waves like sound ripples. This is it, Eli, she said, her voice soft but certain. They used sound waves, vibrations to move them. It's science, not magic. The vision faded, the chamber returning to its quiet glow. But the hum lingered, a gentle lullaby that tempted Elias to close his eyes and dream the scene again. He resisted, his historian's curiosity burning brighter than the star map's light, urging him to understand the Moai's purpose. Were they markers, guardians, or something more? The chamber's air grew heavier, the hum now a steady rhythm. As if the carvings themselves were singing, their birdmen soaring, their ropes pulling in time with the disc's pulse. Elias imagined his After Dark history video, his voice weaving this vision into a calming, Tela hidden chamber, a singing disc, a civilization that moved stone with song. His audience would drift off, their imaginations alight with ancient chants. But the truth was heavier. A responsibility to carry Rapa Nui's secret. Nora's notebook mirrored his, filled with sketches of the vision's details, villagers, stars, vibrating stone. "This changes everything," she whispered, her eyes reflecting the star map's glow. The hum chimed once, a single note, warm and resonant, like a farewell from the ancestors, urging Elias and Nora to carry the song forward. The chamber's glow pulsed softly, illuminating the carvings, as if Rapa Nui trusted them with its heart. Elias clutched the disc, its warmth grounding him as they stood in the silent chamber. The Moai above waiting, their secrets alive in The Stone and Starlight. Part 11. The question of creation. Elias stood in the heart of the chamber beneath Raraku. The air heavy with the scent of ancient stone and the soft hum of the rongo disc, its vibration a gentle pulse that seemed to breathe life into the glowing carvings around him. The chamber's walls, etched with scenes of birdmen, ropes, and Moai, shimmered faintly blue under the star map's celestial glow, a testament to Rapa Nui's lost genius. Nora, her flashlight now a useless flicker, traced a carving of an obsidian chisel shaping a Moai's face, her practical mind wrestling with the chamber's otherworldly aura. Elias's After Dark history notebook lay open on the pedestal, its pages filled with sketches of the vision they'd seen chanting villagers, its vibrating stones, a Moai gliding under starlight. The disc, still warm in his hand, pulsed with a rhythm that echoed the chamber's song, its glyphs, spirals, crescent moons seeming to dance in the faint light. Elias's historian heart thrummed with questions. How did the Rapa Nui carve 800 Moai, some 33 feet tall, with such precision using only stone tools? His voice soft and soothing, narrated for his absent camera. This chamber holds the Moai's secrets, but their creation is a puzzle carved in stone. His words, meant to lull his After Dark history audience, mingled with the hum, which grew stronger, a melody that wrapped him in a dreamlike calm, urging him to uncover the truth beneath the quarry's silent slopes. The carvings showed tools obsidian, chisels, volcanic hammers, wooden mallets, crudely simple, yet wielded with a precision that baffled modern scholars. Elias traced a glyph of a star, its lines sharp and deliberate, matching the spiral on the disc, as if the Rapa Nui aligned their craft with the heavens. The Moai's faces, with broad noses and chiseled jaws, were carved with uncanny symmetry, each one unique yet uniform, as if guided by a master's hand. Nora, kneeling beside a carving of a Moai's eye being etched, whispered, "Eli, this isn't just skill, it's something more." Her voice, usually firm, softened in the chamber's glow, as if the hum was softening her skepticism. Elias nodded, his research recalling theories of teams of carvers, guided by chiefs or priests, but none explained the flawless detail. Koa's tales of mana echoed in his mind, a spiritual force that gave life to stone, perhaps a vibration like the disc's hum. His After Dark history viewers would love this, their sleepy comments buzzing with guesses, genius craftsmanship, divine guidance, or ancient tech, but the hum felt real, pulsing through the chamber's walls, as if the Moai themselves were whispering their origin. Elias's flashlight, already dim, flickered out completely, leaving only the chamber's blue glow to illuminate their path. The star map above seemed to pulse with the disc's rhythm, its constellations unfamiliar yet precise, suggesting a sky the Rapa Nui knew intimately. Elias wondered if the Moai's creation was tied to these stars, their carving a ritual as much as a craft. A carving showed a figure holding a tool, its blade vibrating as if struck by sound, mirroring the vision of chanting villagers. What if mana was sound? Elias murmured, his voice a lullaby for his imagined audience, a frequency that shaped stone. Nora's eyes widened, her notebook open to a sketch of the same carving, her practical mind latching onto the idea. Acoustic tools, maybe, she said, like modern ultrasound cutting, but ancient. The hum chimed, a single note, warm and resonant, as if agreeing, its vibration rippling through the pedestal, making Elias's notebook tremble. His dark history heart raced. This could rewrite history, a discovery too vast for a single video. He imagined his viewers drifting off, dreaming of carvers singing to stone. But the chamber's weight was more than a story, it was a responsibility to carry Rapa Nui's truth. The disc's glyphs glowed faintly, their patterns echoing the star map. As if linking the Moai's creation to the heavens above, Elias stepped to another carving, depicting a Moai's face emerging from raw tuff, its edges smoothed by unseen hands. The precision baffled him. How did they achieve such symmetry without metal or machines? The hum pulsed stronger, sinking with his breath, tempting him to close his eyes and dream the answers. As if the chamber held not just carvings but memories, Nora, sketching a rope-pulling scene, noted its similarity to the vision, suggesting a blend of sound and labor. They didn't just carve, she said. They harmonized with the stone. Elias's mind spun with possibilities, vibrational, tools, celestial guides, or Mana's spiritual pulse. His After Dark history audience would flood the comments with theories, aliens, gods, or forgotten science, but the hum felt personal. A call from the Rapa Nui to understand their craft. The chamber's glow softened, the star map's light dancing like a distant galaxy. As the hum wove through the air, a lullaby older than the Moai, Elias clutched the disc, its warmth grounding him, as he and Nora stood in the chamber's embrace. The carvings whispering of a civilization that shaped stone with song, their secrets alive in the starlit stone. Part 12. The Transport. Nigmi, Elias, and Nora emerged from the chamber beneath Rano Raraku, the morning sun bathing the quarry's slopes. In a golden haze, its warmth a stark contrast to the cool, humming darkness they'd left behind. The rungo disc, tucked in Elias's pocket, pulsed softly, its rhythm a quiet echo of the chamber's song, as if urging them to carry its secrets into the light. They trekked down the path, past half-carved Moai, frozen in the volcanic rock, until they reached a grassy plain where a fallen Moai lay, half buried in the earth, its weathered face gazing skyward. The statue, nearly 30 feet long and weighing perhaps 80 tons, was a silent giant, its broad nose and chiseled jaws softened by centuries of wind and grass. Elias's After Dark history heart-stirred. This was no mere relic, but a puzzle that had baffled archaeologists for generations. How did the Rapa Nui move such colossal stones miles from the quarry to their coastal platforms? But Flickering hung at his side, ready to capture a tale for his audience, who craved soothing mysteries to lull them to sleep. The air was thick with the scent of wildflowers and salt, Pacific's distant waves a gentle lullaby, but the disc's hum cut through, a steady vibration that seemed to resonate with the fallen Moai. Elias narrated softly, his voice a whisper. For his viewers, this Moai traveled miles. But how? Ropes, sledges, or something more? The hum pulsed stronger as if answering, urging him to look closer at the stone. Elias knelt beside the Moai, his fingers brushing its rough surface. Cool, despite the sun's warmth, as if it held the quarry's chill within. The statue's base, partially exposed, bore faint carvings, wavy lines like ripples, mirroring the chamber's depictions of vibrating stone. Nora, her tech bag slung over her shoulder, circled the Moai, her sharp eyes scanning for clues. Look at these marks, she said, pointing to grooves that suggested ropes or sledges. But the carvings hinted at Mara ritual, a song. Elias's research had uncovered theories. Teams of workers dragging Moai on logs, or tilting them upright to walk with ropes, but none fully explained the feat across Rapa Nui's rugged terrain. Koa's tales of Mana, the spiritual force, that moved stone, echoed in his mind, now tied to the chamber's vision of chanting villagers and vibrating Moai. His After Dark history audience would love this, their sleepy comments buzzing with guesses, engineering genius, divine power, or lost technology, but the disk's hum felt real. A vibration that tingled through his hand as if the Moai itself was whispering its journey. Nora pulled a water bottle from her bag, setting it near the disk, and watched it quiver faintly, its surface rippling with the hum's frequency. Sound waves, she muttered, her practical mind latching onto a theory, like acoustic levitation. But ancient, the hum pulsed through the grass, a gentle rhythm that seemed to sync with the island's breeze, as if Rapa Nui was alive with the Moai's memory. Elias imagined his after-dark history video, his voice weaving the transport enigma into a calming tale, a fallen giant, a humming disk, a civilization that moved stone with song. His audience would drift off, dreaming of ropes and chants under starlit skies, but the truth felt heavier, a secret the island guarded fiercely. Nora's notebook was open, filled with sketches from the chamber ropes, ramps, chanting figures now matched by the Moai's carvings. These grooves could be from sledges, she said, but the waves suggest vibration, like the vision showed. Elias nodded, his historian's curiosity burning. The chamber's carvings had depicted Moai sliding weightlessly, guided by sound. He touched the disk, its glyphs glowing faintly in the sunlight, the hum chiming once. A single note, warm and resonant, as if urging them to test its power. Nora held the disk near the Moai, and the hum intensified, making the grass tremble as if the stone remembered its journey. Elias's flashlight, clipped to his belt, flickered off, the island's resistance to tech stronger here, as if protecting the Moai's secrets. The fallen Moai loomed, its gaze fixed on the sky, as if watching for the stars from the chamber's map. Elias wondered if the Moai's placement aligned with celestial patterns was part of their transport, a ritual tied to the heavens. His after-dark history heart raced. This could rewrite history, a discovery too vast for a single upload. He narrated, practicing for his viewers, what if the Rapa Nui used sound to move these giants, a song that echoed the stars. His audience would flood the comments with theories, mana, acoustics, or cosmic signals, but the hum felt personal. A call from the ancestors to understand their craft. Nora, her skepticism softening, sketched the Moai's base, noting how the carvings aligned with the disk's glyphs. This isn't just a statue, she said. It's a key to their engineering. The hum pulsed through the air, a lullaby older than the Moai, tempting Elias to close his eyes and dream of chanting. Villagers. He resisted, his eyes tracing the Moai's form, its silent weight a testament to a civilization's genius. Oh! The disk's vibration rippled through his pocket, urging them back to the chamber, where the Moai's secrets waited, etched in stone. And Starlight, Part 13, the civilization, lost Elias, and Nora, returned to Hungaroa. The heart of Rapa Nui, where the village's coral and blue cottages glowed softly under the midday sun, their color softened by the salty breeze drifting from the Pacific. The streets hummed with quiet life. Children played near a palm-shaded square. Fishermen mended nets by the shore, and the scent of blooming hibiscus mingled with the ocean's temps. Elias, his after-dark history notebook tucked under his arm, felt the Rungarongo disc in his pocket. Its hum a gentle pulse that seemed to mourn the island's past, a rhythm as constant as the waves. Nora walked beside him, her tech bag silent, its gadgets drained by Rapa Nui's mysterious resistance. They sought Koa, the elder whose tales had guided them to the cave and quarry, hoping his wisdom could unravel the Moai's purpose and the civilization's fate. Its cottage stood at the village's edge, its porch adorned with carved wooden figures, their faces echoing the Moai's stoic gaze, as if guarding secrets of their own. Koa welcomed them with a warm smile, his silver hair glinting in the sunlight, his eyes like polished obsidian holding centuries of knowledge. "You've heard the island's song," he said, pouring tea that smelled of mint and earth, his voice a gentle rumble that soothed like a lullaby. Elias set up his notebook, sketching the chamber's carvings, ready to weave Koa's words into a tale for his after-dark history audience, who craved mysteries to drift them into dreams. The hum pulsed softly, as if the disk was listening, its vibration weaving through the cottage's air. Koa's voice wove a story of Rapa Nui's golden age, a time when the island thrived as a haven of navigators and carvers. Their canoes crossing vast oceans, their hands shaping Moai to honor ancestors. Elias listened, his pencil scratching notes, imagining his viewers settling into their beds, lulled by the tale of a people who defied the Pacific's isolation. They were masters, Koa said, their mana strong, their stars bright. But his tone grew heavy as he spoke of the 17th century. When deforestation stripped the island bare, trees felled from Moai transporter fields, leaving the soil to erode. Strife followed, clans clashed, resources dwindled, and the Moai, once symbols of unity, became markers of division. Some were toppled, Koa said, their eyes buried in the earth, as if refusing to watch the fall. Elias's heart sank, the disk's hum softening, as if mourning the loss. His After Dark history audience would love the tragedy. Their sleepy comments buzzing with questions, why topple their own giants? Was it anger, despair, or ritual? But the hum felt personal, a lament that echoed Koa's words vibrating through the wooden floorboards, as if the island itself grieved for its people. Nora's eyes, usually sharp, softened, her notebook open to a sketch of a fallen Moai, its face half buried in grass. The cottage's walls lined with faded photographs of Moai and woven mats seemed to pulse with the disk's rhythm, as if Rapa Nui's past lingered in the air. Elias traced the disk's glyphs spirals, crescent moons feeling their warmth, wondering if they held the story of the collapse. Koa leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. The Moai were more than statues, they were watchers. Guardians of mana, maybe of the stars, their purpose protection, worship, or celestial signal remained unclear. Lost in the silence of the fallen civilization, Elias narrated softly, practicing for his viewers. What did the Moai guard? A people, a spirit, or something beyond? His After Dark history heart raced. This was a tale to soothe and intrigue, but the disk's hum felt heavier, a reminder of a culture's end. Nora, her practicality stirred, noted the ecological collapse, trees gone, soil barren, a warning for today. They pushed too far, she said. Their genius broke their world. The hum chimed once, a single note, warm yet sorrowful, as if agreeing, its vibration rippling through Elias's teacup, making the liquid tremble. His flashlight, tucked in his bag, refused to light. The island's resistance to tech, a constant shadow. Elias stepped outside. The village bathed in sunlight, its quiet beauty a stark contrast to Koa's tale of loss. The disk's hum followed, a soft pulse in his pocket, as if carrying the weight of the Rapa Nui's story. He imagined his After Dark history video, his voice weaving the civilization's rise and fall into a calming narrative, lulling viewers to sleep with images of Moai standing tall, then toppled in silence. His audience would flood the comments: ecological collapse, clan wars, or cosmic purpose. But the hum felt like a private elegy, a song for Elias alone. Nora joined him, her sketchbook filled with Moai and stars, her mind turning to the chambers. Carvings. The Moai watched something, she said. Maybe the disk knows what. The village seemed to pause, its colors vivid yet dreamlike, as the hum pulsed through the air, a lullaby from a lost world.
Elias
Glanced at Koa's cottage, where the elder stood, his smile knowing, as if he felt the island's grief. The Moai loomed in the distance, their silent gaze as a testament to a civilization's brilliance and its end, urging Elias and Nora to carry their story forward, etched in stone and sorrow. Part 14. The night's hum. That night, Elias pitched his tent at the edge of the quarry, just beyond where the Moai cast their endless gaze toward the heart of Rapa Nui. The sky unfurled like ink, speckled with ancient constellations, and the sea whispered gently against the cliffs. His lantern glowed softly beside him, casting golden halos on the short grass. The air carried a hush, stillness that wasn't silence but a waiting. Elias sat with his knees drawn up, notebook resting in his lap. The disk lay tucked against his chest in the inside pocket of his coat. Its hum, subtle but steady, like a lullaby strummed on invisible strings. He didn't need to listen closely anymore. It had become part of the island's soundscape, woven between wind and wave. The Moai, half shadowed by moonlight, stood like sentinels dreaming in stone. Their faces, smooth and solemn, seemed to shimmer under the stars. Elias, pencil in hand, sketched one slowly, tracing each line of the jaw, each indentation where time had worn away the stone. He thought of his after-dark history, audience tucked into bed, eyes closed. Headphones on, listening, not just for answers, but for comfort. The disc thrummed gently, pulsing with memory. He looked up, breath fogging faintly in the cool air. The stars above formed a latticework unlike anything he'd known. These weren't constellations from books, they were patterns etched into the disc, into the chamber, into memory. A deep part of him recognized them, though his mind struggled to explain. He leaned closer to the lantern, speaking softly into his small travel mic. "Tonight, we sleep among the watchers. And maybe, if we listen carefully, they'll share a secret. Of the stars." As if in answer, the disc grew warm. Elias closed his eyes. Sleep came slowly at first, like mist rolling in from the sea. Then suddenly, the island shifted. In his dream, the quarry was alive. Torches flickered. Voices rose in low, resonant chants. Men and women stood along a path, their bodies swaying with the rhythm. Elias walked among them, not a visitor, but part of the ceremony. The Moai moved, not dragged, not pushed. They glided upright, guided by harmony alone, chants deep, melodic, haunting-shaped. The earth's vibration. Elias could feel it in his bones. The ground pulsed beneath his feet. He turned and saw a young girl, her hair braided with shells, holding the same disc that now hummed against his chest. She reached out to him. When their hands met, the stars above aligned in patterns he'd only just begun to understand. The girl smiled, pointing upward. Lifts spun in his vision spirals, waves, stars whispering meanings too vast for words. Then he woke the Moai. We're still. The dream had passed, but the feeling lingered. His hand flew to his coat pocket. The disc was warm, its hum quieter now, as if resting after its revelation. He jotted quickly in his notebook. Resonance, its vibration, song, guidance, not force. Stars as maps. His flashlight still wouldn't work. His phone was blank. Island, ever mysterious, held its boundaries. But he didn't mind. Not tonight. The wind picked up slightly, brushing the tent flaps. Elias stepped outside, stretching quietly. The moon floated high, illuminating the Moai's features in soft relief. He didn't speak. He simply stood with them. His thoughts returned. To his viewers, the sleepy, curious hearts who listened to After Dark history to end their day. He imagined their slow breaths, their minds wandering, soothed by mysteries carved in stone. So he whispered into the mic, letting his words carry on the wind. If the hum of this island has brought you peace, if you found calm in the gaze of giants and the echo of old chants, I hope you'll subscribe to After Dark History. A like helps other quiet minds find their way. Here in your comments guide where we dream next. He closed the notebook, tucked it beside the disc, and lay back onto the grass dot above. The stars blinked slowly. The Moai remained, eternal, and the went on, soft and deep, like the final chord of a lullaby that only the island could play. Part 15. The tides remember morning arrived slowly on Rapa Nui. Silver mist rolled off the ocean, wrapping the cliffs and statues in gauze. Elias woke to the scent of damp earth and salt, the disc still tucked close to his heart, its hum barely perceptible, as if dreaming still. The Moai loomed silent and unchanged, yet something in the air felt different charged. Watchful Nora was already up, crouched by the edge of the quarry with her sketchbook. The light breeze lifted strands of her hair as she traced the coastline's curve, her strokes deliberate, contemplative. When Elias joined her, she pointed toward the tide pools below, where a set of stone steps led down to a hidden inlet. "There's something down there," she said. "It's not marked on any of the maps." They descended cautiously, the rocks slick with sea spray. The sound of the ocean grew louder, not in roar, but in rhythm, a gentle cadence like a breath. At the base of the cliff, They found a cavern half submerged in water, its entrance narrow, but inviting inside. The walls were lined with carvings, some familiar from the chamber, others new. Sea creatures, spiral suns and Moai silhouettes, danced across the stone in worn relief. The water inside the cavern was crystal clear, glowing faintly with bioluminescent specks that pulsed like tiny stars. Elias crouched, touching the water. It was warmer than expected. It's like a memory, he whispered. The disc responded, humming again, not loud but steady. Like a drumbeat rising from the earth. In the reflection of the water, something shimmered. Not just light, but a shape. Elias leaned closer and saw the outline of a massive moina on land, but beneath the waves. Its head tilted back, eyes gazing upward as if forever watching the stars through the ocean's veil. "There's one down there," Nora said, her voice low with awe. A Moai in the sea. Not fallen. Placed. She was right. This wasn't destruction, it was intentional. The statue's form, though covered in coral, retained its dignity, its alignment purposeful. Elias sketched quickly, trying to capture the posture, the slope, the serenity. The glyphs around them suggested a ritual, a passage not of time, but of transformation. This place wasn't just ceremonial, Nora murmured. It was part of something. Cyclical. A tide, maybe. A star path.
Ice.
The disc pulsed brighter, sinking with the ripples in the water. Elias closed his eyes, letting the hum guide him. He saw flashes again, not dreams this time, but impressions. The girl with the shell braids. Standing at the water's edge, the Moai floating upright, bathed in golden light, a chant rising with the surf. The people weren't mourning, they were releasing something. Turning it, Nora placed her hand on the stone beside him. The sea takes what we give it, but maybe it keeps it too. They stayed in the cavern until the tide began to rise, the sea gently ushering them back. As they climbed the steps, Elias turned for one last look. The reflection of the underwater Moai rippled, then faded. Back at camp, the sky had turned a soft lavender. The Moai on land stood quietly, their silence now familiar, no longer lonely. Elias packed his gear, the disc resting gently in its pouch, its hum like a heartbeat that had always been there. He pressed record on his mic, speaking softly. Some stories end, not with answers, but with echoes. The Moai keep watch over the land, but perhaps they also guide the tides of memory of what was and what we still carry. Tonight may their silence speak to your dreams. As the sun dipped into the sea and the Moai's shadows stretched long, Elias and Nora stood side by side. The island had not spoken in words, but they had listened, and the tides remembered. Part 16. Beneath the stars that night, the stars returned with a clarity that seemed impossible. The mist had lifted entirely, and the sky above Rapa Nui opened like an ancient book, each constellation a sentence written in light. Elias and Nora lay on a flat outcrop near the quarry, wrapped in blankets, their gear beside them, untouched above. Them, the Southern Cross, burned bright. The disk, resting between them, gave off the faintest glows, hum now a soothing rhythm. Neither urgent nor sorrowful, but full of presence. The Moai lined the ridge beyond, their silhouettes like sentinels. Watching the stars they may once have charted, I think the disk responds to more than just places, Nora said. It's aware of time, of alignment. Elias nodded slowly. You think it's a kind of calendar? Or a map, she replied. But not just to locations. Maybe to events. Rituals. Remembrances. They watched the stars in silence, letting the night speak. The waves far below lapped against the cliffs with slow rhythm, matching the heartbeat of the island. Somewhere distant, a night bird called, its cry soft and solitary. Elias opened his after-dark history notebook, sketching by starlight. Not just the Moai now, but the symbols, spirals, stars, water paths. He imagined a video titled The Moai, and the sky guiding his listeners through this nocturnal journey, letting them drift into dreams while tracing the same stars the Rapa Nui once followed. People thought they were just statues, he murmured, but they're part of a clock, a map, maybe even a voice. Nora sat up slightly, watching the horizon. Or a memory. One we've forgotten how to read. The disk flickered in agreement, its pulse syncing with the moment the Milky Way arched. Directly overhead was a perfect alignment, Moai. Humans and sky in silent communion. And then, a faint sound. Less a noise, more a feeling. Like distant singing carried on wind that didn't stir the air. Elias's breath caught. He looked to Nora, and she'd heard it too. "They're remembering," she said. They closed their eyes, letting the moment stretch. The disk vibrated steadily, not growing in intensity but in warmth. Elias felt it in his bones, an ancestral hum that spoke not to intellect but to instinct. He reached for his recorder again, voice low, almost reverent. "Here beneath thee. Stars the Moai stand not in silence but in story. They face inward and outward, grounding us in the earth, while pointing to the sky. Maybe their purpose was never to speak but to remember when we forget." His words trailed off as the wind shifted, carrying the scent of the sea and stone. The stars continued their arc, unhurried. The disk, at peace. They stayed like that until the sky paled with dawn's first blush. The Moai did not move, but Elias felt changed, and the island, for a moment, felt awake. He closed his notebook, setting it beside him. Nora stood, stretching, her silhouette outlined in the early light. "It's almost over," she said. Elias stood too. "Or it's just beginning." And as they turned to leave the ridge, the disk in Elias's pocket gave one final pulse, like a breath drawn in, held, and gently released. Part 17. The leaving wind the day of departure came wrapped in stillness. Not the hush of reverence, or the pause before a storm. Just the kind of quiet that settles after something meaningful has passed through. Elias and Nora packed slowly, as if each zipper tugged at the invisible thread tying them to the island. Morning sun spilled gold over the landscape, casting the Moai in long, solemn shadows. The air was gentle, the breeze soft, leaving wind that carried the scent of salt and something older stone, time, memory. Nora moved silently through the small cottage, folding clothing and tucking away gear with mechanical focus. Elias slower. Paused at every item, every corner, every glance out the window. His after-dark history notebook sat open on the table, pages fluttering slightly in the breeze. Notes, sketches, and half-finished sentences covered its sheets, echoes of the island, etched in graphite. The disk lay still beside it. No hum, no glow, just silence, as if it too had said all it needed. They stepped outside into the morning light. The village shimmered with a sleepy warmth, its colors softened by mist and memory. Children's laughter echoed faintly from a distance, mingling with the rustle of palm trees. Koa was already at the edge of the path. Leaning on his old jeep, he held a thermos of tea and 2 small cups, carved from wood and worn with time. When they approached, he poured without a word. "You'll find the hum again," he said finally, "but not from that." He nodded toward the disk. Elias took the cup with both hands, sipping slowly. The tea tasted of mint and soil, grounding and real. He wanted to ask what Koa meant, but part of him already knew. "Did it tell us enough?" Nora asked, adjusting her pack, eyes shaded beneath her cap. Koa chuckled softly. "It never tells all, but it told what it could." The way of old things? From the ridge, the Moai stood distant but visible, tall and unyielding. Their stone faces bore no emotion. But Elias felt their presence pressing gently on his chest, an unspoken farewell. The jeep rattled toward the airstrip. Past the cliffs and the coastal road where the sea crashed in slow rhythm. The wind was steady, warm, almost encouraging, as if it too nudged them along. At the airstrip, the tiny prop plane sat waiting, its metal skin glinting in the light. The roar of its engines hadn't yet begun, but its presence buzzed. A reminder of another world calling them back. Koa handed Nora a carved stone spiral, smooth and dark. "Carry this," he said, "to remember or to listen." She turned it over in her hand, eyes narrowing with thought. "Thank you," she whispered. Elias opened his notebook one last time, flipping to a blank page. Jotted no notes, drew no sketches, just let the pencil rest in his hand, heavy with meaning. Then, gently, he closed it. As they boarded the plane, the island stretched out behind them, green, gold, and shadowed. The Moai shrank with distance, yet remained immense in the mind. The engines growled to life.
Ow.
The wind stirred again, lifting hair and breath and thought. Elias looked out the window as the plane rose. For a moment, the island shimmered, heat, haze, or perhaps something else. In that shimmer, one Moai seemed to shift just a fraction, as if bowing. He blinked. Gone. Beside him, Nora clutched the spiral stone. Her eyes were closed, her breathing steady. The disc rested silent in Elias's pocket. Not asleep. Forgotten. Just still, the clouds gathered below them like blankets. Rapa Nui faded beneath waves of white and blue. In his mind, Elias began the narration not for the video. Not yet. Just for himself. Some places don't just stay with you, they wait. They listen. They whisper when the world is quiet. Imagined his viewers nestled in bed, hearing his voice late at night. The Moai would rise in their minds. The stars would hum above the sea. The questions would linger, unanswered, but alive. Koa's porch would creak again in memory. The chamber's carvings would glow behind closed eyelids. And the disc. Perhaps it would pulse again in a dream. Some stories don't end, Elias. Whispered aloud, they wait. Like the statues, silent, watching, remembering. And as the plane disappeared into the sky, a single gust of wind stirred the coastline of Rapa Nui, rustling grasses, swaying the palms, and brushing gently against the unmoving stone faces, as if the island too had exhaled. One last time, before sleeping again. Waiting. Always. Watching. End. Part 18. Echoes beyond the horizon hours had passed since the plane lifted from the ancient soil of Rapa Nui, but the island lingered. Not in the way memories usually do, but deeper etched. Into Elias and Nora, like a whisper burned into stone. As the clouds thinned and the sea below returned to endless blue, their silence in the cabin deepened, not from fatigue, but reverence. The disc remained quiet in Elias's pocket. Yet its weight was undeniable, like a stone still carrying echoes of its homeland. Occasionally, he touched it gently, half expecting the pulse to return, but it remained still, like the statues they left behind. Nora's fingers traced the spiral stone Koa had given her. Her eyes stayed fixed out the window, though the island was long gone. "It feels like something's still with us," she finally whispered. Elias nodded. "I don't think it ever left." When they landed in Santiago, the world buzzed. Its lights, noise, cars, the relentless rhythm of modern life surged around them like a tide. But Elias felt oddly out of step, as though some part of him remained on the shoreline of that sleeping world. Their phones, finally active, chimed with messages, updates, digital urgency, but they both ignored them. They had crossed back into noise, yet still carried silence. Later that night, in a quiet hotel room, Elias sat by the window, the city glowing below like a sea of restless stars. He flipped open his notebook, now thick with sketches and thoughts, and stared at a blank page. Then he began to write. This is not the end of the mystery, only its echo. He wrote of the Moai, of their gaze, their weight, their silence. The island that breathed history. Of the chamber, the glyphs, the carvings that told a story with no ending. Nora lay on the bed nearby, headphones in, eyes closed. But she wasn't sleeping. Her sketchpad rested on her chest, filled with faces not just Moai, but human eyes, wind-swept hills, stars arcing over stone. Elias paused, looked at the disc again. Still dormant, but not cold, not abandoned. He whispered to it. Outside, the wind touched the windows, not unlike the breeze of the island. He imagined Rapa Nui out there, far across the ocean, resting beneath moonlight, its watchers still watching. In the days that followed, Elias and Nora returned home. Their world resumed bills, emails, groceries, but it never quite reclaimed them. The video took shape slowly. Not because the footage was lacking, but because Elias couldn't bring himself to rush it. This story, more than any other, demanded care. His voiceover came in whispers. Calm, slow, reverent. Long ago, on a remote speck of land, stone giants were raised to the sky. Not as gods, not as monuments, but as memories etched by hands that knew they'd one day be forgotten. The After Dark History audience, when the video finally launched, responded like a tide returning. Comments poured. In questions, owie dreams, sparked by shadow and stone. One viewer wrote, I fell asleep hearing the Moai breathe. Another, I dreamt of standing beside them, and they moved. Elias smiled. That was all he'd hoped for. Weeks passed. One evening he returned to his desk and found the disc glowing faintly. Not humming, not pulsing, just warm, steady. He touched it gently. You heard them, didn't you? In the distance, thunder rumbled a storm not of warning, but of presence. As if something stirred beyond the veil, Nora appeared at the doorway, the spiral stone still in her palm. Starting again, she said. Elias nodded. He reached for his notebook. Time for another chapter. Outside, stars began to fill the sky, and somewhere far across the sea, the Moai stood tall under the moon, their shadows long, their silence deep, waiting, always waiting, but no longer alone, for their story had been carried across waters across, time into dreams, and now it had begun to echo beyond the horizon. Part 19. The dreaming Earth weeks faded into months, and life moved forward in the world outside, but not within Elias and Nora. Something fundamental had shifted. Like tectonic plates realigned beneath their skin. The disc, though quiet now, remained a permanent fixture on Elias's desk, resting atop his field journal. Some nights, it glowed faintly, casting shadows shaped like spirals on the wall, reminding him that silence isn't absence, it's a language, just harder to hear. The video had taken flight in the After Dark history community. Thousands had. Watched, then returned again. Not just for the mystery, but for the stillness it offered. One comment lingered in Elias's mind. The Moai are dreaming, and maybe we are their dreams. Elias found himself waking at odd hours, pen in hand. Notes scribbled in half-sleep visions of ancient boats cutting through starlit oceans, of carvers singing to stone. Nora, too, had changed. Her sketches had become increasingly surreal stone. Faces intertwined with galaxies, waves curling into eyes. One rainy afternoon, they met at their usual cafe, notebooks open, laptops forgotten. Outside, the world drizzled gray. Inside, their conversation turned again to the island. It's like it never let us go, Nora murmured, tracing a spiral in her coffee foam. Elias nodded. Or maybe we were always part of it, they decided. To return, not immediately, not recklessly, but deliberately. A second expedition, this time not to uncover, but to listen. The mystery, they agreed, wasn't just historical, it was emotional, spiritual, ecological. Back in his studio that evening, Elias drafted the outline for a new series, The Dreaming Earth, Echoes of the Ancients. It's not a sequel, but a continuation. Each episode would explore a place where silence and story coexisted. Rapa Nui. Yes, but also the Nazca lines, the stone circles of Britain, the petroglyphs of the American Southwest. Places where stone still whispered, the disc responded. Night, for the first time in weeks, it pulsed a single slow beat. Elias stood by the window, rain tracing the glass. He whispered, "We heard you." A month later, they boarded another plane, this time with more intention, more reverence, no tourist itinerary, no timeline. Just two seekers returning to a listening land. When the plane descended over Rapa Nui, it was dusk. The Moai waited as before, shrouded in golden shadow. The air welcomed them with its familiar hush. Their first stop was Koa's cottage, but where it had stood, only wind and flowers remained. A carved wooden figure, freshly placed, watched. From the earth like a sentinel, Elias touched its surface. Warm, as if Koa had just stepped inside the land itself. They hiked without speaking to the ridge above Rano. The quarry glowed under the twilight sky, unfinished Moai slumbering in stone.
Oh.
There Elias placed the disc gently in the grass. It glowed, pulsed, then quieted, and then came a sound. Not loud, not even clear, but felt. A deep, harmonious vibration, like earth exhaling after centuries of silence. Nora gasped. "Did you hear?" Elias smiled. "No, but I felt it." That night they camped near the Moai. Stars spilled across the sky, too many to name. The ocean murmured below. Elias recorded nothing. He just sat, eyes closed, listening. He imagined the statues dreaming beneath starlight, remembering every hand that carved them, every song once sung. He saw them watching not with eyes, but with presence guardians, not of land, but of memory. And he knew somehow the island had accepted their return. Nora whispered from beside him, "This is the real history, isn't it?" Tears unnoticed, the kind you don't write, only live. They stayed until dawn. The Moai cast long shadows over the grass, and the island sighed with the sun. Elias and Nora stood together, hands resting on the disc between them. No words, just silence. The kind that means you're home and part. 20. The stone remembers Evan. After. Returning home, Elias and Nora felt as if part of themselves remained on Rapa Nui, wandering between the silent statues and whispering grasses. The world buzzed around them, emails, headlines, traffic, but beneath the noise, there was stillness, the kind only stone could teach. In his studio, Elias left the disc resting in a nest of volcanic sand from the quarry, surrounded by the sketches. Nora had drawns, pyrals, constellations, Moai silhouettes, and the faint impression of Koa's smile. Sometimes he caught himself gazing at them for hours, waiting for the disc to hum again. But it didn't, and yet he didn't feel abandoned. Nora began painting not digitally, not for her usual scientific reports, but with oils and brushes. The canvases that emerged were strange and moving, Moai drifting in starlight, dreamscapes of sea and stone, islands afloat in cosmic silence. She never showed them to anyone. They weren't for others, they were for remembering. Their new series, The Dreaming Earth, took shape slowly. Each episode was crafted not as exposition, but as meditation. The voiceovers whispered rather than lectured. Footage lingered in wind brushing grass, on fingers tracing glyphs, on empty landscapes that felt full of meaning. Viewers responded. In kind, thousands commented not just with questions, but with silence, emojis of moons, stones, spirals. One comment read, "This isn't just history. It's a lullaby." Elias smiled. That was exactly what it was meant to be. Weeks turned to seasons. Autumn fell in soft layers of orange and fog, and Nora left a carved replica of a Moai near their garden pond. It didn't face the house, it faced the stars. One night they received a letter, handwritten, no return address. It read, "There's another island. South of New Zealand. They say it hums at night." Attached was a photograph, black and white, of a cave mouth ringed with spiral carvings. Nora looked up from the page, eyes wide. "What do you think?" Elias placed the photo beside the disc. "I think the Earth wants to be heard." And so they planned again. It's not an investigation. Not even a journey. A listening. But before they departed, Elias returned once more to the video from Rapa Nui. He added one final narration, never uploaded, just recorded for himself. Some stories don't end. They drift like tides, changing. Shorelines, but not their rhythm. The Moai don't sleep. They wait for us to quiet down, to hear what they've always known. That memory doesn't live in words, but in wind, in waves, in stone. He saved the file under a folder labeled Silent History. Then, at dusk, he walked to Nora's painted Moai and placed the disc beneath its chin. For a moment, nothing. Then, a hum, barely perceptible. But there, Nora joined him, a candle in her hand. They remember us. Elias nodded. Or maybe we finally remember them. They stood until the candle burned low, until stars filled the pond's reflection. Somewhere in the distance, a wind stirred, as if carrying the breath of a sleeping world, and in the hush that followed, remembered the end. Part 20. The stone remembers even. After returning home, Elias and Nora felt as if part of themselves remained on Rapa Nui, wandering between the silent statues and whispering grasses. The world buzzed around them, emails, headlines, traffic, but beneath the noise, there was stillness, the kind only stone could teach. In his studio, Elias left the disc resting in a nest of volcanic sand from the quarry, surrounded by the sketches. Nora had drawns, pyrals, constellations, Moai silhouettes, and the faint impression of Koa's smile. Sometimes he caught himself gazing at them for hours, waiting for the disc to hum again. But it didn't, and yet he didn't feel abandoned. Nora began painting not digitally, not for her usual scientific reports, but with oils and brushes. The canvases that emerged were strange and moving, Moai drifting in starlight, dreamscapes of sea and stone, islands afloat in cosmic silence. She never showed them to anyone. They weren't for others, they were for remembering. Their new series, The Dreaming Earth, took shape slowly. Each episode was crafted not as exposition, but as meditation. The voiceovers whispered rather than lectured. Footage lingered in wind brushing grass, on fingers tracing glyphs, on empty landscapes that felt full of meaning. Viewers responded. In kind, thousands commented not just with questions, but with silence, emojis of moons, stones, spirals. One comment read, "This isn't just history. It's a lullaby." Elias smiled. That was exactly what it was meant to be. Weeks turned to seasons. Autumn fell in soft layers of orange and fog, and Nora left a carved replica of a moai near their garden pond. It didn't face the house, it faced the stars. One night they received a letter, handwritten, no return address. It read, "There's another island. South of New Zealand. They say it hums at night." Attached was a photograph, black and white, of a cave mouth ringed with spiral carvings. Nora looked up from the page, eyes wide. "What do you think?" Elias placed the photo beside the disc. "I think the Earth wants to be heard." And so they planned again. It's not an investigation. Not even a journey. A listening. But before they departed, Elias returned once more to the video from Rapa Nui. He added one final narration, never uploaded, just recorded for himself. Some stories don't end. They drift like tides, changing. Shorelines, but not their rhythm. The Moai don't sleep. They wait for us to quiet down, to hear what they've always known. That memory doesn't live in words, but in wind, in waves, in stone. He saved the file under a folder labeled Silent History. Then, at dusk, he walked to Nora's painted Moai and placed the disc beneath its chin. For a moment, nothing. Then, a hum, barely perceptible. But there, Nora joined him, a candle in her hand. They remember us. Elias nodded. Or maybe we finally remember them. They stood until the candle burned low, until stars filled the pond's reflection. Somewhere in the distance, a wind stirred, as if carrying the breath of a sleeping world. They spent that night outside, wrapped in shawls, their backs against a garden wall. They watched the sky turn. Elias whispered, "Every place has a memory, but some whisper louder when you leave." Nora traced a spiral in the dew on the stone. Or when you choose to stay even in absence. The disc gave off no more hums that night, but its silence wasn't empty. It was full of presence. As if the Moai no longer needed to speak, they listened anyway. Elias began drafting the next story this time. It's not a mystery, but a meditation. History that breathes, he called it. Not facts, but fragments, felt in bones and breezes. Nora worked beside him, painting constellations into stone mouths, bedding galaxies into weathered eyes. Weeks later, a museum curator reached out. They had seen the Dreaming Earth series. They didn't want artifacts. They wanted atmosphere. So Elias and Nora curated an exhibit made only of sound and shadow, scent and silence. Visitors wandered through stone corridors lined with starlight projections and soft echoes. Elias's voice, reading fragments of ancient songs. Nora's brushwork projected in looping dreams. People wept. Not because they understood, but because they remembered. And as they stood under an artificial sky lit with a replica of Rapa Nui's constellations, hum returned subtle, vibrating through the soles of their feet. No device could explain it. No one even noticed it together. But they felt it, a remembering. That night, as Elias locked the gallery, he turned and saw a child place a spiral-shaped stone beneath one of the projected Moai faces. No one told them to do it, but they knew. The story would continue. In gestures. In silence. In dreams. And deep in the earth, beneath stone and ocean, the hum waited. Soft, patient, eternal. Part 21. The path forward, the morning after the gallery exhibit closed. Elias and Nora sat in the quiet of their kitchen, a single candle burning between them. The air was thick with the scent of tea and cedar wood, and outside, a light rain tapped on the windows like a distant heartbeat. Neither spoke for a long while. They didn't need to. Silence had become its own language. Elias finally opened his notebook, his old one, the one filled with early after-dark history. Scripts, notes scribbled on airplanes and cafe napkins. The pages were worn, corners curled like dried leaves. But now, it felt less like a notebook and more like a journal from another life. He turned to a blank page and wrote just one sentence. History is not what was, it's what still is. Across the table, Nora sipped her tea and stared at the disc. It lay on a linen cloth, dormant. But it had never been just an artifact. It had become a companion, a mirror of something greater, something neither science nor story could define. Keep thinking about the spirals, she said softly. How they never end, just fold in or out. Elias nodded. Cycles like sleep, like memory. Outside, the wind rose, then fell. A bird called once, then silence. Everything seemed to be holding its breath. They'd received dozens of letters. Since the exhibit, not questions, not theories, but experiences. Visitors writing to share dreams they'd had, visions they couldn't explain, feelings they couldn't name. One letter said simply, "The Moai spoke to me." They didn't use words. Another enclosed a small stone carved with a spiral and a note from my garden. I don't know why, but it felt right. That morning, Nora proposed something unexpected. "Let's not go to another island," she said. "Not yet." Elias looked up. "Then what?" She smiled. "Let's listen here, where we live. There are stories beneath our feet. We don't need distant shores to hear the hum." And so they began again, not with plane tickets or passports, but with walking shoes, local maps, and a new series they called The Hushed Earth. Each episode explored overlooked places, forgotten graveyards, overgrown stone circles, abandoned train tracks, reclaimed by moss, but they were filmed like lullabies, full of quiet, drift, and space. They whispered, not explained. Showed, not solved. Viewers responded with reverence. Some watched them nightly to fall asleep. Others told Elias and Nora that they played them during morning walks, allowing the slow pace to retune their days. One comment said, "These aren't videos. They're echoes." One foggy afternoon, Elias and Nora sat beneath a willow by a stream outside their town. The disc sat between them. On the grass, the hum hadn't returned, not in the same way. The silence it left behind was charged. Pregnant with possibility, Elias pressed record. "This place once held a mill," he whispered. "Now it holds only time. But listen closely, there's movement, not in machines, but in memory." As the camera rolled, a leaf floated downstream. A dog barked in the far distance. Wind toyed with Nora's sketchbook, flipping it open to a page she hadn't drawn on in weeks. A Moai, standing not on Rapa Nui, but under the willow. Watching, They didn't plan it. But the episode ended with that image: soft pencil lines, water stains, the faint sound of the stream. That night, the disc warmed briefly. Not a hum, just heat, as if acknowledging not approval, not mystery, recognition. Elias placed it on the windowsill. "You're free now," he whispered. Nora laughed. "You think it was trapped?" "Maybe not trapped," Elias said, "but waiting." Day. Left the window open all night, letting in the wind, the stars. The earth. In the morning, the disc was cold. Still, but the air smelled of salt. And somewhere, far away, maybe beneath a distant cave or behind a mountain, another spiral turned, another story stirred, waiting for them to listen. Or maybe for someone else. Because stories, like stones, outlast the tellers, and the path forward is never straight, but it always circles back to stillness, to listening, to remembering, to the hum beneath it all. And so they walked into the mist, into the story again. Part 23. The Listening Shore, the coastline. Where Elias and Nora next wandered was neither famous nor marked on most maps. Just a crescent of wind-blown sand edged by cliffs and sea heather. Locals called it the Listening Shore, though no one could say why. Some said the wind echoed there in a strange way. Others whispered that the rocks hummed at night. They arrived with no plan, just intuition. The air smelled of salt and sage. Seabirds called above, wings slicing through clouds that hung low. Like thoughts waiting to settle, Elias carried only a small camera. No tripod, no lights. Nora brought her sketchbook and a single pencil. They didn't speak much that first hour. There was a hush in the Plaso presence, not haunting, not foreboding, just aware. Elias began to film the surf, not the crashing waves, but the edges. Where water slid gently over stone and retreated with a whisper. He slowed his breathing, matching it to the tide. Nora found a flat rock and began to draw. Not what she saw, but what she felt. Spirals again, faint glyphs, a distant mountain with eyes. After a while, Elias turned to her. "Do you hear it?" She paused, listening. "It's like a waiting sound." That night they camped by the dunes. There's no fire, just the stars in the sea's breath. The disc remained quiet, but in the stillness something else stirred, like memory rising from the sand. Elias whispered into his recorder. "This place listens, and in listening, it speaks, but not in words. In pattern. In repetition, the shape of stone, the dance of waves, the silence between seabird calls." In the morning, Nora traced her fingers along the base of a cliff. The stone there was pocked. With small holes, like ancient braille, she closed her eyes. At the wind curled through the hollows and produced a low note, barely audible. "It's singing," she said. Like the disc, only slower. They spent days walking that shore. Each bend revealed more subtle beauty. Driftwood twisted like antlers, seaweed coiled like script. Footprints from birds that seemed to spell messages only nature could decipher. Elias recorded everything, but not to publish. This wasn't an episode. It was a communion. One afternoon, they found a stone outcrop that jutted into the sea like a pointing finger. From its edge, the view revealed tide pools below, shimmering with life. Barnacles, crabs, tiny silver fish, and one tide pool held something strange, a spiral etched into its floor. Weathered, ancient, not natural. Nora knelt beside it. Elias sat cross-legged and placed the disc gently on the stone. For hours, nothing. Then, just as dusk turned the sky to lavender, the disc warmed. A soft vibration, a single hum. Nora gasped, as responding. Elias whispered to the spiral. "No," she said, to the listening. That night, the stars above the shore were bright enough to cast shadows. Elias and Nora lay on the sand, the disc between them. "What if every story is already told?" she murmured, "but we just forget how to hear it?" Elias nodded slowly. "Then maybe this is how we remember. Not by telling, but by quiet." The eye. Disc hummed once more. Its time longer, fuller, as if approving. In the distance, waves kissed the rocks with a steady rhythm. That sound joined the hum, became part of it. The sand shifted beneath them. Time felt thinner. Elias pressed record one last time. Some places are loud with silence. This is one here you don't discover. You surrender. You don't search. You receive. The wind swept over the dunes, scattering Nora's sketches. Ash! She didn't chase them. Let the shore have them. Maybe it's listening too, she whispered. They packed up the next morning and left no sign they'd been there. It's not even footprints. The tide had taken those. As they climbed the path away from the shore, the disk cooled once more. But they knew the silence it left behind wasn't absence. It was presence. The listening shore remembered, and somewhere, the story listened back. End of part 23. Part 24. Beneath the quiet eartha. Path inland led through tangled groves of guava and wild hibiscus, the trail narrowing until it was little more than a deer path flanked by moss-covered stones. Elias and Nora moved slowly, drawn by the disk's gentle hum that had returned like a distant drumbeat. Growing stronger with every step, they came upon a clearing, a circle of ancient stones sunken into the soil, half swallowed by creeping vines and time. At the center, a depression in the earth, filled with ferns and shadow. Elias stood at its edge, peering down. It's a sinkhole, he murmured, or maybe a collapsed chamber. Nora nodded. It feels ... old. Older than the Moai. Older than the island's stories. Elias slid down first, careful not to disturb the fragile roots woven through the slope. The disk, tucked in his jacket, pulsed with warmth, guiding his hand like a compass. Nora followed, her boots crunching gently over fallen leaves and stone. At the bottom, light filtered through a break in the trees above, dappled and golden. The air was cool and still, and in that quiet they found the door, a slab of basalt, half buried and carved with the now familiar spirals, crescent moons, and oceanic swirls. At its center, a hollow the exact shape of the disk. Elias hesitated only a moment before drawing the disk from his coat. It fit perfectly into the hollow. The stone shimmered. A vibration low and resonant spread through the ground. Dust fell in tiny clouds from the cavern walls. Then, a crack seemed splitting the slab in two. With a groan of ancient hinges, the stone door slid aside, revealing a passage that descended beneath the earth. Nora shone a light into the passage, though its reach barely pierced the dark. We have to see what's below. Together they entered, stepping into the breath of deep time. The air was cooler still, not damp like a cave, but crisp, like a forgotten library or a sealed tomb. The walls were lined with carvings, more refined than anything they'd seen. Spirals gave way to constellations, maps of stars and seas. Moai figures stood etched into the walls in clusters, each holding a different tool or token. Some faced outward, others inward. Elias filmed briefly, his voice low. This isn't just history, it's memory, preserved not in paper or stone, but in symbol. Further down they reached a chamber, circular, perfectly symmetrical. In the center stood a pedestal, simple square, unadorned. Upon it another disk, but this one glowed. Nora approached, notebook forgotten. The glowing disk vibrated faintly, resonating with the one they carried. When Elias brought his clothes, both disks hummed in harmony, then fell silent. A low sound filled the chamber, like wind, but layered. A voice without words. Music without melody. Nora whispered. It's speaking. Elias closed his eyes. Images flickered in his mind, voyagers crossing oceans under stars, Moai raised in reverence, storms tearing through forests, stone giants falling. Not in sequence, but as one vast breath of time. The pedestal pulsed. Glyphs appeared in the air above it, made of light and memory. They twisted and shimmered, not meant to be read but felt. Elias turned to Nora. This is a record not for the eyes, but for the spirit. They stood in silence, letting the story unfold without narration. It was a lullaby from the earth itself. Minutes passed, or hours. The discs cooled, the light faded, the pedestal dimmed, leaving behind only silence. In the faint sound of their breathing, they exited slowly, climbing back into sunlight that now seemed louder, warmer, almost too bright. The forest greeted them with rustling leaves, as if it, too, had been waiting. Neither spoke as they walked. The weight of what they had seen settled gently between them. Back at their camp, Elias took no notes. Nora didn't draw. "What do we even say?" she asked. Elias looked toward the western horizon, where the sun dipped low over the sea. "Maybe we don't. Maybe some stories aren't told, just carried." The disc rested in his lap, still and silent, yet pulsing faintly, like the memory of music long ended. And beneath the quiet earth, something ancient dreamed again. End of part 24. Part 25 echoes over the ocean that night. The stars returned above their quiet camp. Constellations shimmered in full clarity, arranged not quite as Elias remembered from home. The southern sky danced with old, unfamiliar stories. Lines between stars formed Moai shapes, crescent moons, spirals and waves, as if the heavens mirrored the disc's glyphs. Nora lay beside the fire, sketchbook forgotten in the grass. They were watching the stars, she murmured, or listening to them. Elias, eyes fixed on the dark sky, felt the disc pulse faintly against his chest. Not urgent, gentle, as though content. "Maybe everything was a reflection," he said. Sky, stone, story, one long echo. The fire cracked quietly. A breeze rustled through the palms. Distant waves rolled in steady rhythm, syncing with the disc's beat. Nora sat up. "I think I know what I want to say in the video," Elias turned. "Yeah, we don't explain it. We just invite them in. Let them feel what we felt. Let them wonder." He nodded. The After Dark history audience wouldn't need conclusions. Just a whisper, a mood, an open door into dream. The next day they hiked to a high cliff overlooking the Pacific. The Moai there stood in a line, backs to the sea. As though guarding the island's memories from being forgotten, Elias filmed slowly, letting silence carry most of the weight. The wind whistled through tall grasses, brushing the ancient statues, as if nature still tried to speak with them. He panned his camera across the horizon where ocean met sky in a seamless breath. The sunlight played across the Moai's faces, highlighting their weather-worn features, cracks filled with time. These giants, he whispered into his mic, stood through centuries of silence. But tonight we heard them. Nora placed the disc on a stone between the statues. It didn't glow, didn't hum. But the stillness around it deepened, like reverence. "Maybe they were never meant to speak in noise," she said. "Just in presence." They sat beneath the Moai until dusk softened into velvet blue. As night fell, the stars realigned, the same constellations from the chamber etched now above them. Echoing eternity, Elias checked the footage. "It's all here," he said, "even what we can't explain." Later, back at the village, they shared tea with Koa. He listened quietly, nodding as Elias described the underground chamber, the glowing disc, the flood of visions, some things. Koa said at last, "Are meant to be remembered, not understood." He handed Elias a small, carved stone Moai figure, barely the size of a thumb. To carry with the disc, let the story sleep, but not vanish. Nora asked if he had ever seen the chamber. "I've dreamed of it," Koa replied, eyes distant. "But I never found the door." The day of departure came. As they packed, Nora held the disc one last time before wrapping it in cloth. "Do we take it with us?" Elias hesitated. "It feels like it belongs here." So they returned to the cliff and buried the disc beside the Moai, marking the spot with 3 spiral stones, a gesture of respect. Of return, their flight home was silent, not from exhaustion, but reflection. Back in the studio, Elias edited their footage into a gentle, hour-long story, slow pans, ocean sounds. Nora's sketches layered in soft fades, Koa's voice a lullaby. No narration, just music, wind, and mystery. He uploaded it to After Dark History. Giants of Easter Island, echoes over the ocean. Comments flowed in that night. I don't understand it, but I felt it. Fell asleep halfway and had the most vivid dream of stone statues and stars. Something about this feels ancient, like a memory. Elias smiled. Nora texted one line. They're listening. He looked out his window where the moon hung low, bright over the city. The disk might be gone, but its hum still lived in the waves and the stars, in the quiet spaces between words, and in the dreams of those who watched. End of part 25. Part 26. The silence that follows in the weeks that followed. Something lingered. Elias couldn't name it. Exactly a feeling, a presence, a stillness that followed him from room to room, not unsettling, but aware. As though the story hadn't truly ended, as though the disk buried deep beneath the Moai still pulsed softly across the ocean. He'd often find himself awake at night, staring at the ceiling, hearing waves that weren't there, feeling the faint thrum beneath his ribs. Some nights, he heard a soft rustling like wind through grass, though the windows were shut. After Dark History's video continued to grow tens of thousands of views, then hundreds. But the comments weren't typical. They were slow, thoughtful, filled with dreams and symbols, like viewers had slipped into something deeper. I saw the Moai in my dream, one wrote, but they were floating. Another woke up crying, no idea why. And another, this felt like something I already knew, but forgot. There were sketches, two shared by viewers. Moai with eyes like stars, spirals that turned into galaxies. Drawings of the cliff, the chamber, the disk, though they'd never shown it in detail somehow. People saw what they hadn't seen. Nora visited Elias's apartment one evening, a bottle of hibiscus wine in hand. We've created something different, she said, settling into the couch. Not just a documentary. A spell. Elias smiled. You think we've cast something? I think the island did. We just helped echo it. They toasted in silence. Nora unrolled her latest sketch one of the cliff, but this time, the Moai weren't alone. Tiny glyphs floated above their heads, stars dripping into their stone brows. That's new, Elias said. I didn't draw it. I just ... followed where the pencil led. A few nights later, Elias dreamed of water. He was walking along the ocean floor, Moai rising from coral beds like ancient gods. Fish wove between their arms. Above, stars shimmered like distant lighthouses. And in his hands, the disk, glowing like a heart. He woke with tears on his cheeks and the taste of salt on his lips. The following week, an envelope arrived. No return address. Inside, a photograph of the same cliff. But it was old sepia-toned from the early 1900s, and in the same spot where they buried the disk, 3 spiral stones. Elias stared at it for a long time. It was already there, Nora whispered. Up before us. Time folded like waves, memory echoing before memory was made. They began to collect more stories, viewers writing in about their dreams. Their drawings, their sudden compulsion to look up ancient Polynesian navigation. One child reportedly began carving stone faces out of clay, whispering to them at night. This story isn't over, Nora said. Elias nodded. It may never be. They decided to release one more video, a quiet postscript. No title, just a single frame of the Moai at night. Stars shimmering behind them. A slow pan over the cliff. It's the sound of wind. A slow fade in. Listen to the silence. Then, darkness. Elias watched the final render alone, tea in hand. Outside, the city was quiet. He didn't press upload immediately, just let the video play again, and again. Each time, it ended the same way, black screen, then the hum. Just barely audible, that night as he slept, the silence followed. No longer felt empty, it felt full. End of part 26. Part 27. Beneath the stars. That whisper weeks turned into months. The world moved on, but for Elias and Nora, the hum never left. It became a part of them, like a second heartbeat, quiet but persistent. The island, the disk, the Moai, One seemed to have carved something permanent into their lives. Elias had taken to walking at dusk. He said the hour just before the stars arrived felt like a doorway. The light was soft, the shadows long, and sometimes he swore he saw the outline of a Moai in the distant skyline, though he lived nowhere near the ocean. Nora's dreams changed. She stopped drawing glyphs and started painting sky's vast canvases of constellations no astronomer could identify. One morning, she called Elias and simply said, "They're maps." He didn't need to ask what she meant. One evening, Elias received a message from a viewer in a small fishing village off the coast of Chile. It read, "Come see, the stone sings here too." Within days they were flying again. Bags light, hearts open. The village was remote. No cell service, no internet. Just wind, sea, and cliffs that looked too familiar. They were met by a boy, no older than 12. His name was Teva. "You've seen them too," he said, smiling. "The Watchers." He led them down a narrow path, through seagrass and salt air, to a cove hidden from the world.
Let on when I war with our enemy, where I war with resident local, and I roar with on I saw well, and where I want folks with solo with swallow assassin and since was with our with and all things with some was what's it listen was it some of this.
But cousins, perhaps shorter, rounder, covered in spirals, they sing when it rains, Teva whispered. Only then. They waited. And that night, the sky opened. Rain tapped gently on stone. And beneath it, so faint, so delicate it came. The hum. Nora reached for Elias's hand. It's the same, but different too. Not a hum of sorrow, but one of awakening. Like the island had shared its burden, and now another place had picked it up. Teva placed a small shell on the foot of one statue. They remember everything, he said, even things that haven't happened yet. The sea was a deep indigo that night. The cliffs seemed to glow with moonlight, and the stone silent watchers gleamed like sentinels under stars. They stayed in the village for 3 days. Every night, someone told a story around fires under constellations they didn't know. The villagers spoke of dreams, of ancestors who visited by canoe, of stars that whispered names. By day, Elias recorded the hum. Nora drew spirals in the sand. Teva collected feathers and shells, arranging them in patterns that resembled the glyphs on the disc. On the second day, a stone shifted. Just slightly, just enough Nora saw at first. A subtle turn of the head, small spiral beneath its eye, that hadn't been there before. She didn't speak of it, not at first. But that night, the spiral appeared in her dream. On the last night, Elias sat alone at the edge of the cliff, recorder in hand. He whispered, "What if the Moai were never meant to be understood? Not if they were never meant to be found?
What?
If they're not just watchers, but memory itself?" He paused, listening. The sea answered in silence. In that moment, he felt small, but not alone. When he returned to the village, Nora was sketching. Teva was asleep beside her, a smile on his face. "I think we've just begun," she said. Back home, they didn't rush to make a new video. The footage sat untouched. Instead, they created a map dots where people had written, sketched, dreamed. Rapa Nui, Chile. A town in Norway. Temple in Japan. Lines connected the dots. Spirals formed. "What are we drawing?" Elias asked. "Something older than a story," Nora replied. He nodded, or maybe. "The story is just remembering itself." At night, Elias would listen to the rain. Sometimes, just barely, heed. Here at that hum, it's the one that started on Rapa Nui, the one that followed them. One evening, a package arrived, no return address. Inside, a piece of obsidian carved with a spiral and a note. Have you heard it here too? There was no signature. It's just coordinates. They led to the Himalayas. Outside, rain began to fall. And faintly, somewhere in the static of the world, the stone began to sing again. End of part 27. Part 28. The circle opens the plain to Kathmandu was. Quiet Elias watched the clouds part below like ripples across a silver lake. Nora, beside him, studied a topographical map with growing intensity. The spiral carved into the obsidian never left her jacket pocket. Every time she touched it, it warmed, as though remembering its purpose. The coordinates had brought them too. The foot of the Himalayas, a valley unnamed on most modern maps, reachable only by foot, they hiked for days. Through fog-thick trails and pine-scented forests, guided only by instinct. The hum now a compass in their bones. On the 5th evening, they found a cave. Not marked. Not obvious. But when they passed, the disc in Elias's pack began to tremble not, violently, but with familiarity. Inside, the walls shimmered with mineral veins. A cluster of stones arranged like petals circled a raised platform. In the center was a figure not Moai, not cousin, but kin. Tall, slender, with hands pressed to its heart, spirals etched into its forehead. Elias whispered, another watcher. Nora circled the chamber. Each stone resonated softly. She touched one, and a pulse vibrated up her arm. Threading memory with sound, the glyphs here were different, sharper, like starlight translated into language. Some resembled constellations, others ancient seeds. Spiral at the base of the watcher matched the one from the obsidian. They set up camp just outside. That night, Nora dreamed of oceans folding inward, of canoes sailing skies instead of seas. Elias dreamed of Moai breaking open, not crumbling, but blooming. In the morning, snow dusted the stones, and the hum returned stronger, clearer. It no longer mourned, it called. On the 3rd day, an old monk arrived. Silent, barefoot, smiling. He pointed to the watcher, then to the spiral Nora wore, then to the sky. They're not gods, the monk said softly. They are memory made form, and they remember us all. They sat in the cave for hours. The monk spoke little, but when he did, the air seemed to still. There are places like this all over the world. Sleeping. Waiting. Nora nodded. The watchers. He smiled. You are not the first. You will not be the last, Elias wrote quietly. Not for his audience, for himself. The story had grown too large to fit into episodes. It was a living thing now, unfolding, like ancient petals in rain. Back home, the dots on their wall expanded. Indonesia. Egypt. Arctic ice. Each with tales of stone and sound. One day the humming stopped. Not everywhere, just inside them. A peaceful silence, as if the song had moved on. It's carried now by others. And so they waited not for a message, not for a mystery, but for stillness. To settle again, until one night, a young girl from Morocco emailed them. She wrote, I saw it in the dunes. A stone that sings in the wind. Attached was a sketch, another spiral, and the circle opened once more. End of part 28. Part 29. The children who listened Elias and Nora arrived in Morocco under a sky thick with desert wind. The sun hung low, diffused through layers of golden haze. They carried only what they needed, maps, journals, and the disc, which had begun to tremble again. Its hum faint but insistent. They met the girl, Leela, in a village painted in pale ochre. Streets coiled like sleeping serpents between sand-worn walls. She was no older than 10, yet her eyes held a quiet knowing. She led them without words to a narrow canyon at the edge of the dunes there, where the cliffs breathed heat and the sand sang, was the stone. It stood alone, shorter than a moai, more rounded, but bearing a familiar spiral etched deep into its balance. Sighed, the air around it shimmered, as if the stone exhaled warmth, Nora placed her hand upon it, and the hum flared. Not just a note, but a voice. A choir of them. Layla stepped forward. "It tells stories," she said. "But only to those who listen like the sand." Elias knelt and pressed his ear to the stone. The vibration wasn't loud, but layered generations braided into melody. He heard drums, laughter, storms, the collapse of stars, then silence. Then the voice of a woman speaking in an old tongue he somehow understood. "We are never alone. The watchers sleep until the earth needs remembering."
Ow.
Nora recorded none of it. She only listened. They camped at the canyon's edge. More children came the next day. They brought stones marked with spirals. They had found them in wells, under fig trees, in corners of ancient buildings. Some small enough to hold in a palm, others worn smooth like river stones. Lila stood in the center of them all. "We've heard the dreams for years," she said. "They aren't stories, they're instructions," Elias asked. "Instructions for what?" Layla looked up at the sky. "For remembering. For planting songs in places where time forgets." That night, as stars ignited over the dunes, the children placed their stones in a circle around the original watcher. Nora watched as the spiral on her disc lit up dim at first, then in rhythm with the others. A pattern emerged, not random, not chaotic. Constellation made from earth instead of sky. Elias scribbled notes, his page too narrow for what he felt. This was no longer his story. It belonged to Lila, to the children. To the watchers. In the morning, the canyon was silent again, but each child left with a stone in their pocket and a whisper in their mind. The hum had passed to them, and so Elias and Nora returned to their little home filled with maps and sketches, pinned Morocco to their wall of spirals. The hum inside them was quiet, now replaced by wonder. "Maybe we're not meant to solve it," Elias said. "Maybe we're just meant to pass it on." Nora smiled. "Or listen when the world sings back. It's far away in another time zone." A child in Patagonia touched a stone buried beneath glacier ice, and the whisper began again. End of part 29. Please comment part 30 if you are interested, and when your comment will have 30 likes. Last part will be uploaded.